What's going on, everybody? Hey, welcome back to the channel. We got a lot of stuff to dive into. Let me turn the music down a little bit here. All right, we got a lot of stuff to talk about today. A little bit of a late night stream for us tonight. Ton of stuff been going on here in the NFL. Obviously tonight, the last few nights that we haven't not been live, and we are going to go over that stuff. I did just draft a guy here in the slow puppy. I'll take you guys over to this. We just took Dalton Schultz here literally like 2 seconds ago for this team right here, the slow puppy that I got. Pretty good team from the 9 spot that we've developed here. We got St. Brown, Devontae Smith, Jahmyr Gibbs, Burrow, Cam Akers, Pierce, Elijah Moore, James Cook, Pat Freiermuth, Tyler Boyd, McKinnon, Bigsby, and then we just took Dalton Schultz as our second tight end. So we got 6 running backs and Bigsby, McKinnon, and Cook. That's James Cook, by the way. Dameon Pierce, Cam Akers, and Gibbs, and then pretty good receiver combo here. St. Brown, Smith. We got Elijah Moore, who I like, Tyler Boyd. And then obviously we got Joe Burrow, which I know there's questions surrounding him right now as well. We'll talk about him as well. But let me change this real quick. And we will jump into the news. All right, so here we are at the news. We're going to go over a few pieces. We have a few pieces I didn't that I'm not going to put up, but I'm still going to go over as well. Obviously, the big news today is this right here. Breaking news: Jonathan Taylor requests a trade out of Indy. Irsay had responded actually tonight, not too much longer after the trade request, saying we're not trading Taylor, not today. Not in October either. So a pretty stern statement, pretty reaffirming statement. Basically, they're not going to trade him, not today, not before the trade deadline. He's an Indianapolis Colt essentially, and he's going to stay one. So I have a lot to say about this. We'll go over this. I'm not high on Jonathan Taylor. I never was. You guys know that if you guys have tuned into my stream at all. Really, it wasn't even because of this. Obviously, I didn't even really, it's not surprising when we go back and look at all the red flags that had came up over the past few days that I have not been live. So it's not really surprising that this would happen, but we'll dive into it and, we'll talk about why I wasn't really high into him, what this does for his value, and what are we going to do going forward here, because a lot of people still haven't drafted. There's a lot of people who, if they're smart, and this right here is a prime example of why I would tell you not to draft right now. If you have a main draft that you do, aside from the best ball drafts that we do best ball drafts from April till now. We'll even do some more best ball drafts leading up to the season. We'll even do a couple of best ball drafts probably after the season already starts. But this right here, in your main league, if you have a main league out there, this is why you do not draft until like the week of, the week that football starts, because there's always late news just like this that comes down the wire. And so, and you want to be prepared. You want to be prepared in every possible way. And this is exactly why you don't draft until late. All right, let's go back to the news here. We'll start with kind of the most irrelevant news first, and then we'll work our way up to the big time news. I'm going to go over news that I didn't really print off that I'm not going to put up here. We'll go over some smaller news first. So first off, Zeke Elliott leaves the Patriots visit. This was actually today without a contract. According to Mike Garofalo of NFL Network free agent running back Ezekiel left Saturday visit without he left with the New England, or he left his visit with the Patriots without a deal. And so this is good for us. I mean, I'm a huge Ramondre supporter. Remember, Ramondre is a nuclear player.
These players are going nuclear in 2023, dropping mushrooms on the competition. Draft as many nuclear players as you can to demolish other league members in fantasy football this year.
These are your nuclear players for the 2023 NFL season. I am going to add Calvin Ridley onto this list, I believe. I'm starting to come around on Calvin Ridley. Obviously, the news about him is really good. He is a good receiver. He's always been a good receiver. Just he missed last year. He missed a good portion of the year before that. And so I was skeptical, obviously, of Calvin Ridley. But Calvin Ridley is probably going to come on this list. I'm looking really forward to trying to grab a bunch of Calvin Ridley here, I think, as we wrap up the last 4 weeks, basically, before the season kicks off here. I'm starting to come around on Calvin Ridley, but these are our nuclear players for 2023, and we're hearing a lot of good news about a lot of these guys, for the most part. We're still kind of crossing fingers on Burrow. I think Burrow's going to be okay. We're going to get into that. We're crossing fingers on Stevenson, obviously. He's trying to avoid one of these free agent running backs. So, but, we're here, and I'll just stay on this screen until we get to the actual news. But, you know, if there was a free agent running back that I would actually like to see, like if we knew for sure that they were going to sign a free agent running back, we're talking about the Patriots here, I'd rather see like somebody like Zeke over Dalvin Cook and Fournette, and Kareem Hunt. So, because I feel like Zeke would be the least likely to kind of get in the way of what Stevenson's got going on. So, another, you know, here we go. Like, Kyler Murray. This is today. This is also not too long ago. This is about 4 or 5 hours ago. Kyler Murray says he has no timetable for return. Oh my God, imagine that. Imagine that. First they were saying he was going to be ready for week 1. Yeah, NFL Network's Ian Rappaport said recently that it's not realistic to expect Murray to be ready for week 1. Which, remember, they were coming out saying, oh, he might have a chance for week. Come on, dude. This guy won't be ready until October, November. And then by that point, they're going to be so bad, they're going to be playing for the number 1 pick. I'm telling you guys right now, this was you know what that is? Whenever they were,
you are fake news.
That's exactly what that is right there. Whenever they were talking about him, they were talking about Kyler Murray being ready for week 1, possibly playing week 1.
You are fake news. That's
what I say, because and then here they are now saying, this is him, Kyler Murray, saying he has no timetable. He has no timetable. So that means you probably shouldn't expect him to be ready week 1. There's no timetable on it. So I'm telling you guys, man. It could also mean the opposite, meaning like, oh, he has no timetable, so he's not going to wait. But it usually means the opposite. Deontay Johnson came back to practice today after heat-related issues, I believe Friday. I read this on Friday. I know I didn't go live on any of this stuff. I do like Deontay Johnson a little bit in fantasy this year. I've drafted plenty of them. I do think he ends up being a better pick than Pickens this year, I think. But it's tough, though, with Dotson there, Addison there, and some other players around him that go about the same ADP that he goes. Anything else here? I'm looking at, here we go. Jaden Reed settling into the slot role for the Packers. We knew this. I've been super high on Jaden Reed. He is my most drafted player on fantasy, Underdog Fantasy Best Ball. And so, yeah, this is good. This is good news for us. I'm pretty high on Jaden Reed this year as a late round kind of sleeper at receiver. And then here we go again. Russell Wilson trimmed down, could run more this season. James Palmer of NFL Network. Denver Broncos quarterback Russell Wilson is trimmed down and hinted he could use his legs more in 2023. Something head coach Sean Payton has encouraged in camp. Well, he better, because he needs to get outside the pocket a little more. He's a better quarterback when he's outside the pocket. Not really fantasy related, but Jalen Carter, first round pick of out of Georgia to the Philadelphia Eagles. Shedding double teams and pressing early in camp. This is a good sign. I'm pretty high. If you have defenses in your fantasy league, I'm pretty high on Philly's defense this year. And so this is also good news. Let's see what else here. Allen Robinson seeing reps in the slot in Pittsburgh. That's kind of some small news. I'm not really going to go over it much. I didn't put this one up there. Ridley impressing early at camp. Ridley has been impressive throughout the first few days of Jacksonville's training camp. This guy's looking really good from what I'm seeing on video, man. This guy's looking really, really good. I am impressed, and I'm bidding. I'm bidding on this guy in auction. You better believe it. So, and I'm buying him at certain points in drafts, just depending on the draft and what these settings are. But third round, fourth round is good value. If you're in a decent draft, if you can get this guy fifth round, like in an ESPN league, or sixth round, or whatever you would get him in, take him and run for the hills. So, all right, let's jump into like the big news. Let's jump into the big news here of the day. So, our ETN. Travis Etienne. What the heck was that? So Travis Etienne, impressing as a pass catcher in camp. Travis Etienne Jr. has been impressive, showing off his pass catching ability so far in training camps. John Shipley. Jacksonville has been practicing for a few days, but Etienne has already been impressing his coaches with his pass catching prowess. That was one of the skills he had that made him such a highly touted recruit coming out of college. Wasn't used heavily in the passing game last season, as many had hoped. If he earns more of a role in that area this season, he could see his value shoot up in PPR league formats ahead of fantasy football drafts. You know, Etienne is a very good pass catching back. So is Tank Bigsby, though. And so it'd be interesting to see how much Tank Bigsby kind of eats into his workload as far as being there on third down and as a pass catching running back. So we'll be curious to see how much of a role that play. I do think Etienne is a good draft pick in round 4, especially if you get him in the middle of round 4, where I've seen him fall quite often. If we get more and more of this news, though, you could see him start to slide up a little bit. It would not shock me. And so this is good news, though, if you are an Etienne owner, because we haven't really heard too much on him. We've heard a lot. We've heard a little bit of good news from Tank Bigsby, which has kind of been worrying people as well. And so, look, I think they both kind of play I wouldn't say a major role, but they both play a good, crucial role in helping this team become really an offensive juggernaut, maybe a sleeping giant on the offensive side of the ball this year that people maybe don't recognize. I'm super high on Jacksonville this year. I think they're going to exceed expectations of what people have for them. They're going to be a highly efficient, I think, and really highly scoring offense this year. And I think Bigsby and Etienne can both contribute. And I think Etienne he's going to be okay. I think he's going to be okay. I think he's going to be decent this year. I don't think he's going to be like top 5, but I could see him as a low-end RB1 in fantasy this year. Let's just put it that way. So, I'm talking about top 10, obviously I'm talking about inside of top 12, really. Like 12, top 10 to 12. So, number 10, 11, or 12, roughly. He could maybe go a little higher than that. We'll see. Obviously, it just depends if he can stay healthy. All right, let's go to our next set of news here. Cooper Kupp reportedly not being limited in training camp. That's a good news. No limitations in training camp after undergoing an ankle procedure last season. This is very, very good news. Basically, there's no setback right now. Fantasy Impact Cup had to get tie rope surgery on his ankle last year after suffering a high ankle sprain. Remember, he played 8 games, or he played 9 games. He missed the last 8 games. He has had plenty of time to recover and is now participating at camp without any limitations. Very, very good sign, like I said. His health and the health of QB Matthew Stafford are the 2 main concerns for fantasy production this season, but we've been getting positive news on both fronts, which adds some stability to the veteran as a top 10 overall pick in most leagues. So this is good news, fantastic news if you own Cooper Kupp. You don't want to see like any setbacks. We look at Jonathan Taylor, who we'll get to in a moment, obviously, but there's a little bit of a setback with his ankle. They put him on the PUP list. They put him on the active PUP list. Remember, that was the last thing that we kicked off. The last thing we talked about was about Jonathan Taylor being on the PUP list, and now here we go. We get the trade rumors, or we get the trade request, and like I said, we'll get that. We'll get to that in a moment. But Taylor had an ankle injury as well, just like Kupp. And obviously he tried to play through it last year. Kupp, it was so bad he had to pretty much miss the rest of the season. And so this is good, though. He had the surgery. There's really no setbacks. He's got no limitations. This is good news if you're a Cooper Kupp fan. I do like Cooper Kupp a lot if you have the 3rd or 4th pick in your NFL draft this year. And I've taken him plenty of times already, really. I've taken him more than some of these guys that I'm talking about who I'm not really high on. I'll let you tell you guys how much I've actually taken Kupp here. Let me see how many times I've actually taken Cooper Kupp. I've taken him I got 10 shares of him. About 7%, 10 shares. Not too many times, but you got to think, how often am I getting the number 3 or 4 pick? Not as often as I would like. And there's been times where I've gotten Chase at number 3 before, so and there's also times where I've gone Tyreek Hill. So next set of news here is kind of smaller news. Dalton Kincaid seeing consistent targets in Bills practice. This is a good sign. Bills rookie tight end Dalton Kincaid has been seeing consistent targets from QB Josh Allen in practice, according to The Athletic. This is Joe Muscaglia and of The Athletic. Early targets for Kincaid from his new QBs from his new QB are a great sign for chemistry between the two. As the season approaches, rookie tight ends have a poor track record in general, and fantasy football is no exception. But if Kincaid can get rapport going with Josh Allen, he could be serviceable as a fantasy's weakest position. Kincaid may be worth a late round flyer and has an obvious upside in dynasty formats. I like this guy in dynasty, especially if you're drafting, kind of that 5 to 8 range. You should be able to see Dalton Kincaid. I think he's worth it for the most part, and I do like him as a tight end 1. But you got to go get somebody else with him. You have to go get a Okonkwo. You have to go get a Dalton Schultz. You have to go get a Gerald Everett, maybe. I like him, but you got to go get somebody else with him, I think, just in case, because he's a rookie. And as much as I like this guy, and I think he's going to be pretty good in the NFL, I think he's going to be a guy who we look down the road and he is a top 5 tight end in the league consistently. But it's going to be a few years before that happens, I think. But so in the dynasty format, I'd love to take this guy. If I miss out on Bijan, I miss out on Gibbs, I miss out on a quarterback, I miss out on some of the top few picks of a rookie draft this year. So, but with the track record of the tight ends, like this points out to, over the first few years of a, it's not even just rookies, but rookies, second year tight ends, really tight ends that are still in their first contract. For the most part, they don't tend to break out until their second contract as far as fantasy goes. And so I would like another guy to go with him if I'm drafting him. All right, let's move on. Let's go to Joe Burrow first, because I don't think this is as concerning as the other two. I know he had the calf strain. I seen the video. I wanted to go live on it, but I just, like I said, I was working. I knew I was going to go live like either last night or tonight. Joe Burrow will be out several weeks with a calf strain he suffered in training camp this week. While unfortunate, it's good news that he avoided a major injury. I do think he's going to be okay. I think he's going to miss a few weeks. He's going to miss the rest of training camp, which is a little concerning because you want him to build rapport. You want him to knock off the rust. You want him to get everybody else involved in training camp other than somebody like Chase and Higgins, who he's and really Tyler Boyd, who he's got great chemistry with. I mean, he is going into year 4. Granted, he missed a little bit of time his rookie year. I think this offense is going to be okay. I think you're going to see them take a minute to get going week 1 and week 2 maybe, and maybe they don't really start to get going until week 3 or 4. As long as he stays healthy, and he, we'll see. But I think he'll be ready for week 1. I think it's going to maybe take them a game or two to get the offense back to what it was last year and the last 2 years. We'll see. Maybe not. Maybe it does. Maybe it doesn't. But it's good that there's no like Achilles rupture. There's no torn muscle in the calf. There's not something bigger. It's just a strain. He's gonna take look. Calf strains are okay. You take a few weeks off. You take 2-3 weeks off. You get the treatment that you need. He's not gonna play in the preseason anyway. Really, we're just missing out on him practicing with some of these new receivers. A couple of the new offensive linemen that they have, getting rapport with those guys as well. That's gonna kind of be the downfall of this whole situation. But at the end of the day, I think he's going to be okay. I think he's going to be ready to play week 1, and I'm not panicking about this at all. I hope he drops into the 5th round because of this in some of these upcoming drafts where it's just a 1 QB draft, and I'll take him in the 5th round and I'll take the discount. So not really too worried about this one. We'll talk about it more later if you guys want to talk about it, but I'm going to move on. 2 more pieces of news here. We got Dalvin Cook now. This is a big piece of news. I talked to a buddy of mine the other day, and I said I would not be shocked at all if this guy signs with the Jets after Rodgers restructured his contract. And so the writing is on the wall on this one. I think the writing is on the wall on this one, and it sucks, man, because I am a Breece Hall. I own Breece Hall, and I planned on keeping him, and I may not keep him now in my keeper league because of this. So he stated, I actually watched this on the NFL Network the other day. I believe this was yesterday? This would have been, this was yesterday or Thursday. I forget which day. I think it was Friday morning. Yeah. So he stated that he believes the odds that he signs with the New York Jets are pretty high. Remember, he just did kind of an interview with them and the Patriots. Cook recently took a visit with the New York Jets, and in a Friday morning appearance on Good Morning Football, which I watched, he stated that he thinks the odds of signing are pretty high. He also mentioned the Dolphins are still in play, but it sounds like the Jets are the clear favorite for the time being. No deal is done yet, but this will bring some serious fantasy implications for players like Breece Hall and Aaron Rodgers. Remember, Aaron Rodgers just took like a damn near $32 million pay cut to restructure his deal with the Jets. That is a clear indication, in my opinion, of creating room to go get somebody like Dalvin Cook. And so I would not be shocked here if he goes there. It's good and bad for Breece Hall. It's good, or let's just start with the bad news first. It's bad because Cook is going to play. We'll see how much he signs for if he does go there. It'll probably be a pretty substantial amount, I would think, for a free agent running back and for a guy who technically would be the backup, in my opinion. I don't think he outplays Breece Hall in any form or fashion. I do think they're going to split time. if they both remain healthy, I think they're going to split time to a degree. I mean, but it also just depends on how much money they pay Dalvin Cook as well. If they pay him like really, really good backup running back money, or even enough money to where he's making more than probably just about any of the starters, which he would be because Breece Hall's not getting paid that much. At the end of the day, though, Breece Hall is the number one running back on the team. But if this guy goes to the Jets, Breece Hall will be affected to a degree. Breece Hall is going to have to be super efficient with his touches unless Cook gets injured or something. If he gets injured, say before week 5 or something. But the good news is about this is that this drops Breece Hall's price tag. His price tag will drop if Cook goes there. So, like you said, though, the Dolphins are still in play. I'm hoping he goes to Miami, though. For the most part, I would still rather see him go to Miami than New York, even if that does drop Breece Hall's price tag, which it will. But and I look at it in terms of my auction league because I bid on players that will definitely drop his price tag in that area. And redraft, it will drop him to round 4, in my opinion, as well. Although you would like to see him go to like round 5. That would be like a steal. But yeah, I expect I expect some news on this very, very soon here. I expect Cook to make a decision by the end of next week. Really, maybe before Wednesday. We'll see. Or I expect a team to make a decision on him very, very soon. So I don't think this makes it to Friday before we know what team he's on. So get ready, prepare yourselves. Prepare yourselves for Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. One of those days, I think, we find out where he is officially. All right, let's get to the big news here. And it's Jonathan Taylor formally requests a trade. According to Ian Rappaport of NFL Network, running back Jonathan Taylor has formally requested a trade from the Indianapolis Colts. Ian Rappaport on Twitter. There's a lot of moving parts in this. And Irsay had just replied not too long ago, a few hours ago, basically saying no, we're not going to trade him. Not today, not in October, which would be before the trade deadline. I believe the trade deadline is like, when is the trade deadline? It's like early November, I believe. Which October, those when kind of like pieces start to move in the NFL as far as trade deadline goes. Taylor has been involved in a running back uproar regarding the contracts. Remember, they had the Zoom meetings between a lot of these running backs. You know, Najee Harris, Eckler. I don't know if Bijan was a part of it or not, but you had all, Henry, Saquon, Jacobs, a lot of these veteran guys. I don't know if some of the younger guys like Breece Hall or Bijan were in it at all, but Taylor was, because this guy's the next guy. He's like the next guy who's going to face the same situation that Jacobs and Barkley just went through these past few weeks. So he's been involved in the running back uproar regarding contracts and proper compensation as he himself is up for an extension. Remember, he was drafted in the 2nd round. So this is a contract year for Taylor. He's going into year number 4. This is his last year. They can franchise tag him, though, after this year if they want, and then they can do it again. They can franchise him 2 more years. But as far as 5th-year option, there's no 5th-year option on Jonathan Taylor. He was drafted in the 2nd round. Remember, the 5th-year option only applies to the guys drafted in round 1. Colts owner Jim Irsay had expressed that the team was uninterested in extending him. Irsay and Taylor, who is currently on the PUP list, met during practice to discuss the situation. If you guys remember, if you guys have been following the news, obviously, I'm sure a lot of you guys have, Irsay had commented the other day on the running backs meeting together on the Zoom call and basically saying that their agents were selling bad faith. So I'm going to go over this article on ESPN. So Colts owner Jim Irsay, when asked later Saturday about the trade request, told ESPN the team would not trade Taylor. We will not, quote, we will not trade Jonathan Taylor, Irsay said. This is a certainty, not now or not in October. So they're not doing it now. They're not doing it in October before the trade deadline. We're looking forward to a great season and hoping Jonathan Taylor is a big part of that. We're looking forward to hopefully having Jonathan here. He added it was a good conversation, and I'm hopeful as we go forward. I'll tell you right now, if you guys seen that interview of him after they got out of the contracts, if you guys seen that interview of him getting, basically talking to the media after the contract situation, he did not sound very optimistic at all. He sounded like he was searching for stuff. Where's Taylor going? He's not going anywhere, bro. He ain't going anywhere unless the Colts want him to go somewhere. You're taking a number 4 non-PPR. Non-PPR. Gosh, dude, you play non-PPR? You can't be playing non-PPR, man. Gosh, who would I take non-PPR? I would take Bijan at number 4. If it's non-PPR, I would take Bijan. I would definitely take a running back, but I would take one that you are certain that's going to get you about 1,200 yards on the ground, and that guy would be Bijan for me. I'm out on Eckler at that point. I'm pretty much out on McCaffrey as well. You're talking about non-PPR, so not half PPR or full PPR at all. Yeah, I'm taking a running back who can run between the tackles. I'm taking Bijan all day, every day. If he's not there, then I'm taking... Good grief, man. Who would I take if he's not there? Who plays non-PPR, bro? You don't play non-PPR, do you? I don't even think my grandma plays non-PPR. You gotta play at least half. Who would I take if Bijan's not there? I would take probably Chubb. Maybe Chubb. He says I have an outdated league. Yeah, you guys gotta vote on that or something. Vote that in. At least half PPR. I mean, I'm not a huge fan of full PPR, but I do play half PPR in a lot of my leagues. I do have a couple that are full, but my main like auction league, it's half PPR. We also have bonus points for like 100-yard games if you're a running back or a receiver, and we got a couple of bonus points if they have like a big play, but that's about it. Most of your leagues are PPR? Okay. Yeah, I mean, if I was in a non-PPR and I had a top 5 pick, I'm looking for Bijan, dude. Because he is going to... Out of all the top backs, he is one that I could confidently tell you is going to get you like 1,100, 1,200 yards rushing. And he really could get you more than that, but... As far as like 1,000 yards rushing go and having touchdown opportunities, because that's what's big in non-PPR. You got to get guys to score touchdowns, and you got to get guys who get a bell cow type of role that are going to carry the ball, or really they're going to touch the ball 18 to 20 times a game, and most of it's going to be rushing production. And so I would tell you Bijan, and he's in a very good rushing offense that has a very good rushing offensive line and a good scheme for the running back to run the ball. Falcons ran the ball basically more than any other team last year if you take out the quarterback runs. So give me Bijan all day, every day. Yeah, Jonathan Taylor, man, I'm staying away from this guy. I have been staying away from this guy pretty much all off season. He's not on this list for a reason. He never was.
In 2023, dropping mushrooms on the competition. Draft as many nuclear players as you can to demolish other league members in fantasy football this year.
So yeah, he was never on this list at all to begin with. These are my nuclear players, man. These are the guys who are going to. Those are the guys you're going to want to target for the most part. I think there's one more guy I forgot to talk about. I forgot to talk about Sony Michel. Sony Michel retired today, by the way. So this is very, very good news for Cam Akers, who I have as a nuclear player. I love Cam Akers this year. I think he is one of the best candidates. If you're looking for a candidate who could break out and be the Josh Jacobs of last year, this year, if you're looking for one of those guys, I think Akers is at the top of that list. And that's why he's a nuclear player for me. You can get him in round 5/6, pretty much. He pretty much goes in round 6, but he'll go at the end of round 5 every now and then in our best ball drafts. He'll be a little higher on like an ESPN league or something like that, but I love me some Cam Akers. And now that Sony Michel just retired, they will replace him. Look for Zeke, look for Kareem Hunt, maybe a Leonard Fournette. The Rams just became a destination for one of those free agent running backs now. It's kind of good news. It's kind of bad news, but Akers is still going to be the number one guy. It's going to take those players away from Ramondre Stevenson, hopefully. We'll see if Ramondre can avoid one of these veteran running backs signing with the Patriots. We'll see. What was I going to look up again? Who do I have? Oh, yeah, Jonathan Taylor. Yeah, I have 4 shares of Jonathan Taylor on Underdog. 4 shares here. 2.8% drafted. Over 144 leagues. Really, I have more than 144 leagues. Because I have I have all of these, and then I also have I got 144 right here. I got 10 super flexes. Let's see what my exposure is on the super flexes. I bet you I have 0 of him. Yeah, look at this. You see this? Taylor. He doesn't pop up because we don't have any shares of him on the 10 teams here. These are pre-draft best balls. Let's look at the exposure on this. I bet you I don't have any shares of him here either. Yep, none. I wasn't very high on Taylor to begin with. Okay. I just show you guys this just because I'm proving that I'm not, and I'm not lying to you guys. I got weekly winners. I've done here. Let's go to these 25 super flex leagues I have right here. Chihuahuas and then 4 Pomeranians. Let's see how many shares of Taylor I got on this. I bet you I don't have any. Look at this. Nothing. No match. Nothing for Jonathan Taylor. Let's go over the weekly winners. I can already tell you I don't have any exposure to him in this. See this? None. So I literally have 4 shares of them over really what? 25, 14, that's 39, 49, 51, and almost 200 drafts, and I have 4 shares of him. So, like I said, I was never high on him. I think, and it's not that I think the guy's a bust, and it's not because of the trade news, because I've been doing drafts long before the trade news. I just wasn't high on him because Richardson coming in, he's going to vulture touchdown opportunities. He's going to vulture rushing attempts away from him. Even if Richardson doesn't start right away, which he may not, it's sounding like he may not, which doesn't surprise me. He's going to come in at some point, week 6, week 7, who knows when? Maybe even before that. He's going to come in at some point, and he's going to vulture production from Jonathan Taylor. Taylor's also on the PUP list right now, which isn't a huge concern. I mean, Breece Hall's on the PUP list right now too, and I'm not really worried about Breece Hall. But so set that aside. But if you talk about Richardson, vulturing, carries, production from him, Colts aren't going to be very competitive this year. Their over/under win total is 6.5. I actually already taken a bet on the under. for that particular bet. I don't think they're going to win more than 6 games this year. They're not going to make the playoffs. They're not going to win that division either. And so you factor in the non-competitiveness of the team. I think that's another reason to kind of stay away from it. And last but not least, his price tag. His price tag is too high. He goes middle of round 2. Sometimes he even goes early round 2, or he used to. He doesn't anymore. He was consistently falling to... I mean, I can show you guys. Let's go back to like the Poodle 2 here. I'm going to go back to the Poodle 2. The Poodle 2 was going on in May, like at the middle of May. Okay, I have 20 entries. Let's just okay, I drafted from the 3 spot here. Let's see where Taylor went. Look at this. He went 14th. He was going at the beginning of round 2, okay? So I'm not lying to you guys. He was going at the beginning of round 2. Let's go. Let's click on another one. Let's go to this team that I drafted. All of these were like in May, like kind of like the middle of May, kind of towards the end of May. Jonathan Taylor, 16th overall. So he was going like 14 to 16, okay? His ADP was... Who drafted this guy? Bush's? Let's look at Bush's team real quick. Jonathan Taylor, ADP. Right here, you guys can see it. Right here above me. See where my mouse is right here? 13.8. It was basically the first or second pick of round number 2. Okay. I thought that price tag was way too high. That's why I did not draft him. I thought it was too high. I thought he should have been like, at the most, he should have been like in like a late second to early third, but there was no chance you were going to get him there. Let's go to... The Chihuahuas were fairly recent. Actually, the Fast Puppies, the Fast Puppies were pretty recent as well. Let's see what he is in the Fast Puppies. This is probably earlier, like a little bit mid to early July. So earlier this month. He went 20th right here to Jarking. Let's see what his ADP is. 17.6. So it went from 13.8 to 17.6. I still thought that was too high because that's the middle of round 2. And that's probably about where he is right now. Let's go ahead and take a look. He's 18.3 right now, so I still think it's too high. I thought he should have been like right around Stevenson, like 27 to 28 to 29-ish. I always thought he kind of should have been there. Obviously, that was never going to be the case. That was never going to happen. Really, realistically, you could say like between Derrick Henry and Ramondre is kind of where I thought he should have went. I always told you guys from the beginning, I liked Pollard over him. I liked Barkley over him. I liked even Chubb over him. Although I wasn't very high on either of those guys either. But like Pollard, obviously I'm higher on Pollard than Chubb, Barkley, and Taylor, and you can get Pollard right after all 3 of them. With their offense, look, when it comes to fantasy production, and it's not always the case, but it's most of the time. You can say this about most of the players most of the time. You want to go after players that are on good teams that compete for the playoffs, that have high scoring offenses or good offenses, and that get good opportunity, obviously. And so Indy's not going to compete this year. They're not going to compete. It's going to be between the Titans and the Jaguars this year for the division. More than likely going to be the Jaguars. And Indy's either, you know, Houston could finish better than Indy this year. Indy could be the bottom of the barrel of the division, of that division, the AFC South. And so, and it wouldn't shock me. That's why I took the under on the 6.5 win total. I thought that was too high. I thought there was value with taking the under on that, and I did. I would actually be curious to see, going back to Dalvin Cook, I do want to see what the odds are on, remember, the Patriots became the favorite at plus 150 odds, and then the Dolphins were plus 200. I'm gonna pivot real quick. I'm gonna pivot real quick to see what the odds are on Dalvin Cook and where he signs are. As soon as I find it. NFL, there it is. I guess it would be under what, futures? Team specials, actually, maybe. No, not team specials. I'm looking for where this would be. It's gotta be in futures somewhere. I know they got this out there. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. Let me get to your question real quick, man. JT, trade JT to Commanders. That's not gonna happen, dude. That's not gonna happen. I'm telling you right now, that's not gonna happen. If that happened, I would be utterly shocked. I'd be utterly shocked if that happened. It's and from what I'm hearing, Brian Robinson is having an outstanding, or he's having a very good camp right now. Brian Robinson is. He's expecting a breakout this year, from what I believe he said the other day. Gibson's going to be involved in that offense as well, I think, pretty heavily in the passing game. The Commanders wouldn't be one of my top teams where I would think he could go. Let's just say he could get traded, and he could, even though Irsay just came out and said, look, we're not trading him now, we're not trading him in October. There's always a chance. And this is an ugly situation for the Colts, and you know, the thing about this, here's the thing. This is not the NBA. This isn't the NBA. The NFL is so much more different than the NBA, and I kind of like that to a degree. I think the players have a little bit too much power in the NBA, if I'm being quite honest. I think it's ruined the sport to a degree. I mean, I still like the NBA, but at the same time, I don't like to see all these super teams. I think it's dumb. I think it takes away. You basically go into the season every year in the NBA. You're like, the Magic are going to suck this year. The Wizards are going to suck this year. The Oklahoma City Thunder are going to suck. You know, you basically go into the season, you know which teams are going to suck, because they lose all their stars all the time because of how the NBA is. And so it's like, it's always the same teams, you know what I mean, that are always competing in the playoffs and stuff for the most part. You know, it gets shaken up a little bit every once in a while, you know, but I don't like that about the NBA. And what Taylor's trying to do is he's trying to work himself out of the contract. He's trying to work himself out of Indy, which I get why he's upset, but at the same time, I would understand the organization saying, no, we're not going to trade you, because why would they? When they really have him on their contract. Well, they don't have him on their contract for 3 years, but they basically have him for 3 years. They have him for this year, and then they can franchise tag him twice if they want to. And so, look, man, the franchise tag, and don't get me wrong, dude. I think it's stupid. I don't think they should even have it. And if they do have it, I think it should only be for 1 year, not 2. But at the same time, they're under a collective bargaining agreement, and the players association, you know, the players union, they need to negotiate a better CBA come 2030. The CBA doesn't expire till 2030. So these guys, they're in a tough situation right now. They just are. And the only people that they can blame are the players union, as far as I'm concerned. And what Irsay said, although true, so like Irsay came out and basically said he wasn't a fan of them getting together, you know, We worked really hard on a CBA that took years to get, that benefited both sides, that, both sides agreed to, which he's right. Both sides agreed to it. And so he's not, but he probably should have kept that comment to himself. But since he expressed it out loud, it just angered his running back, who is technically about to be in the same situation that Barkley and Jacobs just went through this offseason. So you can understand it, and then they had a meeting today, which I guarantee you did not go very well, because if you've seen Irsay's comments, I would tell you guys to go out and look for Irsay's comments on Twitter. I've already seen them. They're out there on Twitter somewhere, about him basically talking to the media after the conference, the press conference or the meeting that he had with Jonathan Taylor and probably his agent behind closed doors. When he came out and was talking to the media about it, dude, this guy did not, he was trying to sugarcoat it, but if you watch it, there's no optimism, in my opinion. If you're a guy who knows what's going on in football right now, you listen to what he says, when he's talking to the reporters, you can basically come to the an intelligent person would come to the understanding that they did not go very well, and he's just trying to sugarcoat things to a degree to where, we hope he comes and plays, blah blah blah. But they didn't come to. I guarantee you that was a short meeting, and nothing, as far as the way Jonathan Taylor feels about the organization, it probably didn't change very much in the way he feels about that owner and Jim Irsay. But at the end of the day, dude, I like I said, I don't want to see the players become so powerful to where they are forcing their way to certain organizations. And every year you can pretty much bank on a few teams just not being able to compete at all for a Super Bowl, kind of like how the NBA is. But I will say at the same time, I think the owners do have a lot of power and they have a lot of control. And do they talk amongst each other between themselves? Of course they do. Of course they do. The players talk amongst each other, just like the running backs having that, they talk amongst each other as well. The door goes both ways. And why would they not? Why would they not? It's a money-making machine business. So why would they not? You know what I mean? And the owners have a lot of leverage, as you know, but I would say that the collective bargaining agreement, the new one, come 2030, they're going to have to change these running backs contracts to where they're either getting more money on their rookie deal if they're a first, especially if they're a first rounder, or if they're a second rounder, or they need to shorten the contract to 2 years. Shorten it to 2 years, one franchise tag year, and I think that would go a long way. I think it would go a long way. If you said, hey, Bijan, you're on a 2-year deal, they can franchise tag you for one for the 120% market, or they can choose to not, I don't know. It's going to be, I don't know, man. It's going to be tough, dude. It's going to be tough because the owners have a ton of power. They have a ton of power. So we'll see. You guys want to know why Barkley took that deal? Other than the fact that he said he had an epiphany and he, it is what it is, and he came to the realization that it's business. I'm going to play this year. Dude, he came to that agreement because they went out and got James Robinson. They went out and signed James Robinson, bro. The Giants put their, they put their cards on the table. They're like, okay, you're going to do this. We're going to go out and get James Robinson, sign him for $1 million or whatever they gave him. They didn't give him much. And we'll just move on. We'll just play the season without you. Because at the end of the day, and you look, they drafted a pretty good running back out of Oklahoma, Gray, who could be okay. I mean, he's probably not Barkley, but it's you know, at the end of the day, dude, the running backs aren't what they used to be as far as like back in the 80s, the 90s, even the early 2000s. You had LaDainian Tomlinson score what, 31 touchdowns in 1 year. You know, the running back could carry your offense. The NFL is so different now. The quarterbacks are way more a part of the offense than the running backs are now, whereas that's not the way it was back in the day. And you look at the Rams when they went to the Super Bowl and lost to the Patriots. They ran that offense through Todd Gurley. Todd Gurley was the focal point of that offense. They won whenever they used him as the focal point of the offense, but as soon as he was to miss time, which he did not play in the Super Bowl against the Patriots, and Sean McVay knows this because he was the coach for that team, and he was the coach for the team that won the Super Bowl a few years later. You know, if you go back 2 years before my Chiefs won it. He realized that you could build an offense around a running back, but as soon as that running back got hurt, you were screwed. You were not going to be able to win a game. If that running and the running backs are so prone to getting hurt compared to the quarterback, compared to even a receiver. And so he changed his philosophy on the offense basically and went to going to get a gunslinger like Matthew Stafford. You got Cooper Kupp, you went and got Odell Beckham, you have a good defense, and they went out and won a Super Bowl. But in that year that they lost 13-3 in one of the most boring Super Bowls you've ever watched in your life, they couldn't score because they didn't have Todd Gurley. They didn't have the focal point of their offense who they built the offense around. And so the blueprint for doing that, the blueprint that's what the blueprint used to be for a long time. Go get a top running back round one, go draft some offensive linemen. You can get by with a subpar quarterback and Jared Goff, who was a number 1 overall pick, but he was kind of, you know, he's not really considered a top quarterback, a top 5 quarterback in today's day and age. Really, I don't think he ever really was considered one. He might have been considered one for maybe a year or two, but that's about it. But you go get Todd Gurley, you build an offensive line around him, you build a defense. That used to be the blueprint. Now it's the opposite. Now it's the quarterback and receivers, throw the ball. You look at the last 2 Super Bowl champions. Really, if you guys look at the last 4 Super Bowl champions, the Chiefs, the Rams, the Bucks, and then my Chiefs again, right? Those are 4 high volume passing offenses. The Bucks have thrown the ball just about more than anybody over the last 2 years with Brady, right? The Chiefs, my Chiefs, they sling the ball with Mahomes and Stafford. He slung the ball, 2 years ago when they won the Super Bowl. That was a passing offense. The offensive coordinator for that team is now the Vikings head coach. This will be his 2nd year as a Vikings head coach. Guess what? They slung the ball a ton last year with the Vikings. They're going to sling it again. That is the blueprint now. You guys ask why these running backs are so devalued? This is why. Because the NFL has changed over really I would say about the last decade or so, maybe a little bit less than a decade, but the blueprint is to go get a quarterback like Mahomes, like Herbert, like Joe Burrow, pass the ball a ton, get some receivers, don't worry about running back too much, maybe get one who's decent, but can also catch the ball out of the backfield a little bit here and there, or get a collection of running backs who can, who aren't really top 10 guys, but can perform, and have somebody like Mahomes and a receiving core and a defense, a decent defense who can at least allow less points than what your offense can score. That is the blueprint. So, you look at the Eagles who made it to the Super Bowl last year. They had Miles Sanders, who was like 14th in fantasy last year, and he had one of his most prolific fantasy seasons to date last year. He was still not even top 10 in fantasy last year as a fantasy running back. And so the blueprint is to go and get a quarterback, build around that quarterback, go get him weapons, build a defense, and go from there. You don't need running back to succeed in the NFL. Do you need a guy who can maybe be... Because look, Miles Sanders isn't the greatest running back. I don't think he's that good. I'm not like dying to draft Miles Sanders in round 1 or 2. Nobody is. And so, but if you get a guy like Sanders who can maybe perform behind a good offensive line like last year, that's really all you need. You get him and a couple other guys maybe behind him. Plus you have a running QB who can maybe sneak in a bunch of touchdowns like he did last year, Jalen Hurts. That is a blueprint to succeed in the NFL and get to the playoffs and make it to the Super Bowl. It's not to hand the ball to Todd Gurley 30 times a game, because that formula does not work as soon as that guy goes down. And we all know the running backs they have a higher chance of going down before the quarterback, before the receivers. And it's just the way it is. It's just the way it is, man. These running backs are going to have to start developing into pass catchers to survive longer and to stay in the league longer, especially the good ones. And if they don't, then it's going to be tough for them to stay on the field, for one, especially after a year where they go crazy in fantasy on both rushing and passing game. And so you're going to have to start, you're going to start seeing more running backs, kind of like Eckler, I think, in the future, where like Eckler hasn't ran for 1,000 yards in the season in his career, but he's still a very, very good fantasy producer because he's so good catching the ball. He gets a ton of targets, this and that. And so all of the running backs, if I'm a college running back or if I'm a high school running back, I think, there's a chance of I'm making it to college and into the pros, you better start thinking about developing a skill set as a receiver to a degree. Because if you don't, you're going to probably regret it once you get to the NFL. If you make it to the NFL and you're that good, you're going to be facing the same situation that these guys are facing right now, at least until a new CBA or something comes out to where they have shorter contracts or whatever. So, and that's just the nuts and bolts of the situation. And there's really nothing they can do until 2030. And so, other than hold out, but if they do that, they're just going to go sign somebody like James Robinson off the free agency wire for $2 million a year or something, something stupid low. And that's how they're going to get by. So, the history of the Super Bowl winners over the past few years I've seen, where the Super Bowl winners have really not very good running backs for the most part as far as fantasy goes, or even really just in terms of football terms. It doesn't help these running backs at all. You're seeing all these teams win without an elite running back. So that also doesn't help these running backs' case at all. I'm still looking. I gotta find this freaking bet. What is the bet for this? Did they take it down? There's no way they took it down, right? Futures. It's got to be in futures here. Should be a special, right? They gotta have more than just this, dude. I don't know why I cannot find this. This is crazy. Let me look it up real quick. Let me look it up on Google. I've given up. I can't find it on DraftKings. I know it was on DraftKings a little while ago. Dalvin Cook team odds. All right, so the Jets went from plus 300 to minus 200. So I can't believe I can't find it on here. Where is this at? I must just be missing this somewhere. Futures. Team result. I don't know where it's at, but it tells me right here. Patriots went from plus 150 to plus 400. Dolphins went from plus 200 to plus 550. So the Jets minus 200. That should tell you guys all you need to know. Nobody was in the negative. So the last time, earlier in the week, the favorites were the Patriots. They were plus 150. They were still plus money. The fact that they got the Jets minus 200 now, probably because Aaron Rodgers restructuring his contract. You got Cook going on Good Morning Football, basically saying there's a very, very good chance he's coming. He's coming to New York, man. It's almost crystal clear in my opinion. I'll be shocked if it doesn't happen, to be honest. I'm already preparing the mindset for it. I'm preparing to probably not keep Breece Hall in my auction keeper. That doesn't mean I won't draft him, but I'm not going to keep him. That means I'm going to put him back in the player pool. I'm going to try to probably draft him, again. I'm probably going to keep Kenneth Walker. That's what I should do anyways, considering I'm saving like $22. Let's go ahead and jump into a draft here. They got a slow puppy. They got a best ball mania. They got a weekly winner. We got the Mastiff. We're not doing any of that. Let's do a best ball mania, actually. I kind of want to do another one. We're going to do a best ball mania right now. $25 entry. And here we go. Let's jump right into it here. If you guys haven't checked out, these are my new rankings right here. I will put them up on the other screen here. So here you are, new rankings right here down below. I adjusted my rankings. We'll go over them after this draft is over. We're waiting on one person, by the way. So if you guys want to get in, feel free. You got probably like 2 seconds. One person. There it goes. Why is this all messed up here? There we go. We got the 10 picks, so that kind of sucks. Let's see how far Jonathan Taylor falls. Let's see where Josh Jacobs goes, you know. Be curious to see where these guys are falling now. 34 sucks because I want to get Calvin Ridley, and there's a chance that he's going to start going earlier. And I'd like to get him in round 3, obviously. We'll probably go live again tomorrow at some point. go over some more news. We'll talk about the Jonathan Taylor situation some more. We can talk about it right now if you guys have questions about it. I don't think he's going to get traded. I think this situation could get ugly. I'm avoiding him at all costs right now. I've been avoiding him, but I'm really avoiding him now. This guy, who knows, man? Who knows what these running backs start doing, man, because of the contract situation. They might just be, I wouldn't call it malingering, but they might malinger a little bit here this year. They might get an injury and just decide to like maybe not suit up and play a few extra weeks because of it, you know. And even though it's going to hurt their situation for getting a new contract, even if they get traded or if they get cut or if they get to go to a different team, it's going to hurt, you know, if they decide to sit out extra games for the current team that they play on just to prove a point and this and that. And so, you know, I thought Taylor was being drafted too high to begin with. I thought a lot of his production could get vultured this year potentially, and I think he's on a team that's not going to compete really for a playoff spot. So you factor all of that in, and that was kind of why I wasn't high on him to begin with. This trade request, the fact that I'm telling you, this guy's super unhappy with this team right now. He's unhappy with the owner, Jim Irsay, because of the comments that he made the other day, and the fact that he wants to request a trade really not too much longer after those comments were made by Jim. That just tells you all you need to know. That tells you that the water is very, very muddy. There's a lot of tension here between the organization and him. And I'm telling you guys, I would stay away from him. I don't think I'm going to get this guy in round number 2. So I'm going to take him. I'm going to take him here. I would rather have him right now over Diggs, CeeDee Lamb. I do like Garrett Wilson, but I think there's a chance he could fall to me with the news that came out about his ankle. We'll see. I'm not a fan of going running back here, especially when I miss out on Bijan. I'm not a fan of going running back whenever I'm at the back of the draft here, 10, 11, or 12 pick. I like to go 2 wide receivers. That's probably what I'm going to do. Take Adams. Take Devontae Adams. You know you want to. All right, I got to take Barkley. I'm gonna go really, in my opinion, with the safer pick. I know a lot of people may not agree with this, but I think he's a safer pick than some of these other guys up here. I'm taking Devontae Smith. I know it's early, but I'm not. I don't want to go running back. I know Chubb is there, and so is Pollard. If I would have went anything else other than Smith, it would have been Pollard. Okay, if I'm being honest. Okay, that's about the only guy I can maybe take a swing on here at 15. But I do like to go 2 wide receivers. I'm out on Adams. I'm out on Waddle for the most part when Smith's there. I got Smith ranked higher than Waddle. I think he's a better receiver. And Adams, if you could give me Adams down here at 34, I would probably take him. But at 16 or 15, I just can't do it, man. I can't do it. I can't do it. I think the Raiders are going to fall apart this year. I'm not saying he can't produce. I'm not saying he can't be like a good wide receiver too. He could be. He probably has a good chance of being one, but the Raiders are going to implode this year. Mark my words. They are going to implode this year. Bad. They will not compete for anything. And Adams is going to be super unhappy with the way that team is competing. I promise you. I promise you. And he's not going to get out of there. They're not trading him. They aren't trading him. Looking at my strength of schedule here again. I mean, the Colts have the third easiest schedule, but I'm telling you, man, they're gonna struggle to win some games. They're gonna struggle to win some games. Pollard goes 18. Look at that. Pollard was the next running back to go. I'm not shocked by that at all. Chubb. There goes Derrick Henry. Where's Jonathan Taylor at? He's still on the board. Let's see how far he goes. He's going to drop into round 3 unless this guy takes him here. There's no way this guy takes Taylor. There's just no way. There's just no way. Calvin Ridley, good grief, man. That's so early. It's so early. I don't hate the pick, but all this Calvin Ridley news is just raising his ADP. It's raising the price tag. And I'm not against that. I do like Calvin Ridley, but boy, I miss those days where he would just, he would literally fall to me every single time in round 3. If I was picking at 34, I would always get him, just about. Now you'd be lucky to get him if you're picking at the beginning of round 3. This guy's trolling with the Jerry Jeudy pick, I think. I talked about Jerry Jeudy the other day on Smitty's show. Jeudy is a guy I am avoiding. I think he is a Trojan horse. I think I stand by this, and I'll die on this take. I think he is the Allen Robinson, Michael Thomas of this year. I said it. Okay, I said it. I stand by it. I'll eat my words if that ends up not being the case, but I'm not a fan of him. I'm definitely not a fan of him at the beginning of round 3. That's way too high. Way too high. And I wouldn't be taking him in round 4 either. Remember when Allen Robinson and Mike Thomas were going super high? Like round 4-ish? They were starting round 5, and then they moved up to round 4. They were going super high in drafts. And now we look back on it and we're like, well, that was not a good idea. Yeah, that's exactly what I think Jerry Jeudy is this year. So even Michael Pittman kind of fell in that category last year as well. So did Mike Williams. So I think that's Jerry Jeudy this year. He's one of those guys where man, why did we draft him in round 3 or 4? He should have been drafted in round 7. I think that's what we look at. We look back on that and say, all right, it's coming up on my pick. It is my pick. We got Breece Hall. We got Jacobs, Gibbs, Najee Harris. I'm going to go on the safe side here. This guy is a nuclear player. I've been on him. I'm going to stay on him. We're going to take Najee Harris here. We're going to pass on Jacobs and Hall for the moment. Hall falls to me. I'll probably take him. Round 4. We'll see, though. We will see. It just depends on who else is still on the board here. I may take ETN. Because there's a good... The reason why I would take ETN is because it's easy to handcuff Bigsby to him, in my opinion. It's much easier to handcuff him than it is just about any other player. Maybe Algier, you could argue, is pretty easy to handcuff the Bijan, but everybody else, it's a little tougher. That guy goes Jacobs and Breece Hall. Decent value, but I don't think Jacobs is a good pick right there. I still wouldn't have drafted Jacobs. We could get pretty much all of Detroit's offense if that guy didn't take Gibbs. Man. Said you were on Smitty's. Yeah, I was. We were talking about Garrett Wilson. Talked a little bit about Jeudy there towards the end as well. I'm gonna go ahead and take this guy since that guy took Gibbs. I'm gonna take Watson. Gives me a third receiver. I like to go kind of whenever I'm down here towards the back here, round 10, or not round 10, pick 10, pick 11, pick 12. I like to kind of go maybe one running back and then 3 receivers for the most part. I like to try to get Pierce, Akers, You know, I'd like to get one of those guys as a value running back number 2. Even Kenneth Walker. I mean, Kenneth Walker will probably go here at the beginning of the 5th round, but you never know. Cool. Yeah. I already talked about JT. I've already talked about Burrow. I already talked about some of the things that we missed out on, you know, the last few days. But you know, went pretty extensive on JT tonight. Like I said, I don't think he's going to get traded. He's got no leverage. This isn't the NBA, man. This isn't the NBA where you can just force your way out of a situation. He's still on his rookie deal. He's you know, he's going to get the Barkley treatment, dude, if he wants to go down this road, and it's not going to end up well for him. And so I think that's good to a degree. Like I said, when I compare the situation to like the NBA, I don't think the situation should be like the NBA, but I also don't think the situation should be like it is right now. I think the franchise tag is dumb, especially when they can use it for 2 years. I don't know why the NFLPA would you know, agree to that, but it is what it is. I do think in like the NBA, the players have way too much power, and I'm glad that the NFL is not like that. But then again, the owners have a ton of power as well if you look at it from the NFL side. And you know, at the end of the day, if the running backs really wanted to get more money, I would say it's kind of the quarterback's fault. The quarterbacks get paid so much, and they take a lot of the salary cap away from what could go towards a running back. So, you know, I think that's kind of an issue as well. Obviously, the 4-year contract plus a 5-year option for a first-round running back is a issue, and then you tally on 2 franchise tag years on top of that. That's 7 years. You basically can own a running back like Bijan, and Bijan's going to have to go down this road too. You can own somebody like Bijan for 7 years on your team, and those are going to be the best years of his career probably. Let's say he played 12 or 13 years. By some miracle, you got the best 7 years out of Bijan than probably any other team will get if you let him go after 7 years. So, and you only had to pay him $10.1 million for 2 of those years. The rest of the years were on his rookie contract. So, huge discount, obviously. And that's why the owners don't want to change it. I mean, if I was an owner, I wouldn't want to change it either from a business perspective. So, I mean, why would you? I want to draft this guy so bad if he's there, but I also don't want to miss out. All right, we're going to take a chance here. We're going to take a chance, okay? I think. Let me see. Yeah, because Trevor Lawrence just went. We missed out on quarterback. All right, we're going to take a chance then. Let's go get Hawkinson. Hopefully my player stays on the board here. Round 6. If he does, he does. If he doesn't, we will pivot. We'll pivot probably to the other one. We're going to get one of our players. I was hoping T-Law would fall to me here. I'm not surprised that he didn't, though. That's okay. We're just going to go thrift store quarterback here. So Joe Burrow still went in round 4, middle of round 4. No surprise there, I guess. I was hoping maybe he would... I'm surprised, really, he didn't fall to round 5, to be honest. Taylor went 29th overall. That's about where I thought he would go. Oh, my God. We still got our running back. All right, we got Cam Akers. Pretty easy pick for me there. I think he's the best running back on the board. Next to Pierce, probably right behind him. I do like Pierce a lot. If I could get Pierce at like 82, that would be a slam dunk. But it's probably not going to happen, obviously. It's just a bold strategy from this guy from the 1 pick. He better hope he gets Pierce or somebody. He's got Chase, Ridley, Judy, DJ Moore, Justin Fields. I just don't understand a Jerry Judy pick right there. Yeah. I encourage it though. I don't care. If somebody wants to take, yeah, be my guest if you want to take Jerry Judy that early. I don't think that one's going to go the way he thinks it's going to go. This guy got Eckler, Pollard, Mark Andrews, Keenan Allen, Herbert, Pittman. This isn't bad. I don't really care for the Pittman pick right here. It could be okay though. I do like the first 5 picks. Not too bad. Keenan Allen, paired him up with Herbert. He's got Eckler as well. I think if you can get I think if you can get a handful of Chargers on your team, I would say go for it. See, if I was this guy though, I would have went maybe Addison, or I would have went Dotson, and then I would have maybe tried to grab Quentin Johnston down here at 79. That's probably what I would have done. Now there's no guarantee that you get that, so Kittle's a very good 6th-round pick in my opinion. I think out of all the 6th-round players, Akers, Pierce, and Kittle would be my top 3 picks for a 6th-round player. Tyreek Hill, Chris Olave, Jonathan Taylor, Hopkins, Kirk, Kittle. Yeah, I don't think he's gonna like this, John. I mean, it's good value though. It is good value considering his ADP, but what Chiefs do I think are going to be the best this year? Sky Moore and Ross. I would take a chance on Ross at the end of your drafts. Seems like he's having a good camp. I think Sky Moore is going to be pretty beneficial. Stay away from Tony. I don't care what Smitty says. Stay away from that guy. The guy's a walking injury. This guy just took Javonte Williams in round 7. You know what? Take him. Take him. I'm actually glad that there's good news about Williams. I think he goes. I think this is early, obviously. Would you drop Sky Moore for Quentin Johnston? That's a coin flip to a degree. I would say me personally, no. And really it just depends on who my other receivers are. It just depends on who my other receivers are. Like I'm guessing you're talking, this is probably like a flex situation, right? Sky Moore would be your flex option, so would Quentin Johnston, I would think. You would have to have 2 receivers that are better than those guys, I would hope. So I would say no, though. With the Tony injury and his injury history, and he's going to be missing pretty much all of training camp, all of the preseason, I would say no. Because Sky Moore has a bigger role in the Chiefs offense, in my opinion, than what Quentin Johnston will have, considering it, you know, and that's obviously that can change if Keenan Allen or Mike Williams get hurt. But for right now and what we know, Sky Moore is going to probably have a decent, seeing this guy, oh, this guy didn't take him. Yeah, Sky Moore's going to have a little bit more upside, I think, in his offense versus Quentin Johnston. And, you know, just because of the Tony injury. And I would say they're both good options, though. Don't think that I'm saying one guy sucks and the other one's good. They're both good options, I think, as like a flex player. You should have 2 receivers that are better than both of those guys. So if you don't, then you messed up. I'm going to take this guy next. David Montgomery right there. Montgomery goes so early now, dude. It's crazy. I'm so glad I got like Montgomery at like 82 to 87 back in like May, back in April. DK and DJ Moore. Okay. Why can't you have both of them is the question. Like, why can you not have Sky Moore and Quentin Johnston as like guys on your bench who you could potentially insert into the starting lineup? Do you have other players like on the bench that you just cannot get rid of? That would be my question, I guess. I'm assuming one guy's on the waiver wire, if that's why you're asking me, right? I don't know if that's why you're asking me or not, though. I might load up at receiver right here, low key. So I just don't have to worry about receiver. Let me see here. Pacheco's out there. I like Pacheco to a degree. He does have the same bye week. Not that that matters, but I'm gonna load up. I'm gonna load up on receiver. Give me Sky Moore. Sky Moore goes so early now that we have to take him here in round 8. He's not gonna fall to us in round 9. He always goes like right here where the first, second, and third pick draft. So give me Moore. We got Elijah Moore. We got Sky Moore. We got the Moore brothers as our 4th and 5th receiver. I like this. We'll go. We already got 2 running backs. We're going thrift shop quarterback. We're gonna have to, which is fine. I think there's a good chance a team that makes it pretty far in best ball has like a late quarterback, and really that kind of is the strategy for the most part. Quinn Johnson's on waivers and I have Sky Moore on my flex. Who else do you have on your bench that you're like, I can't get rid of? You know what I mean? Give me all of your bench players, and I'll tell you which guy that is maybe a guy you could get rid of instead of having to get rid of Sky Moore. Just give me every single one of your bench players. I don't care who your 2 starting running backs are or your quarterback. You already gave me your other 2 receivers. I don't care who your tight end is. If you have a kicker in defense, I don't care who they are. Just give me all of your bench players, and I'll tell you who you should probably drop. I'll be right back. I gotta pee real quick. I'll be right back. I'll answer your question whenever I get back. All right, we're back. Bateman goes, Tony goes. Look at Tony. You can get Tony in round 8 now. Down here in the bottom. This is where Tony should have been going, bro. This is where Tony should have been going. I was saying it weeks ago not to draft Tony at the end of round 6. I'd seen people, Smitty had so many people like onto the Tony train that guys were draft. I seen somebody draft Tony like 50-51 in one of the Garrett Wilson drafts we did. I'm just like, what are these guys doing? I couldn't believe it. That was just way too, people are way too high on Tony. And it's not that I was predicting injury, but the writing was on the wall to a degree. I mean, this guy's injury list, his injury list is like a mile long. It's like a laundry list. And on top of it, you know, you had to like, oh, why Patrick Mahomes, he's going to be wide receiver number 1, this and that. People were just in awe of Tony. I'm like, dude, this guy's done nothing over the years. And I'm not saying he couldn't do anything, but at the same time, you take his injury history into evaluation, you take his play into evaluation. The guy's a head case. Gets trolled on Twitter for a living because he's dumb. The writing was on the wall, in my opinion, with him, and I couldn't believe. God, look at all these running backs that came off the board, man. They're taking all my running backs. We're gonna go with this guy. Yeah, I couldn't believe the hype train on Tony, dude. I could not believe it. I'll show you guys this guy's I'll show you this guy's injury history, dude. It's so So bad. Here it is, right here. Very high risk. Chance of injury. 3.4 games to be projected to be missed. His durability was a 1.19. 5 being the most durable right here. Look at this laundry list of his injuries. And this guy's going into year 3. He's going into year 3. And good grief, man. This is why I was avoiding him, especially at his ADP. I always thought his ADP was too high. I wasn't saying don't draft him, but I was saying at the beginning of round 7, really he was routinely going in round 6 before the injury. I just thought it was way too high when you had players like Dotson behind him. You had players like Addison being drafted kind of like right around his area. You had David Montgomery, who really was a back of the round 7, beginning of round 8 player until recently. You had Pierce, who I thought was a better player. Akers, Kittle would have been a better pick. It was just crazy. All right, we're back on the clock here. We got to go get a quarterback, and I'm going to take this guy. Need a quarterback. All right, he gave me his bench players. You got Gibson, JSN, Addison, Damian Harris, Charbonnet, Zay Flowers on the bench. If you really want Quentin Johnston, I got to move this. Hold on a second. Gonna move this up here. Let me go back to this screen right here. If you really want Quentin Johnston, I would take. You have. I'm just curious. Do you have Kenneth Walker? Do you have Kenneth Walker as one of your running backs? If you don't, I would debate Charbonnet, Hurts, McCaffrey, ET, and DK. DJ Moore, Pitts, Sky Moore. Okay, I would probably get rid of Damian Harris if it was me. You have Gibson, who I actually like a little bit this year, especially as an RB3. And you got Charbonnet as a running back 4. So let me see though. You got DJ Moore, DK, Sky Moore. You got Zay Flowers, JSN, Addison. Man, you got a bunch of rookie receivers, man. I don't know if I like that too much. I would rather you only have like 2 rookie receivers instead of 3. They're not all gonna land, but I guess you're giving yourself more opportunity for one of them to land if you have 3 of them. And then technically you'll have 4 if you get Quentin Johnston. So, it's tough because you have 3 rookie receivers and this will give you 4. Got a lot of rookies. Is this Dynasty or is this just redraft? If this is Dynasty, I'm dropping Damian Harris. Really, if it's redraft and you think you can go without Damian Harris, then I would still drop Damian Harris as well, whether it's redraft or Dynasty. If it's Dynasty, I'm 1,000% dropping him for Damian Harris, which I don't think it's Dynasty because there's no way you're getting all these rookies unless you were just loaded to the brim with first round picks. So even in redraft, I would still take him. I would drop Damian Harris and take him, but it's at your discretion. At the same, you know what I mean? Because, man, those are your starters. Should I just keep Sky Moore? I think if I had to choose between the two, if you're like, hey, your life's on the line, you got to choose between the two. It's redraft. I would probably just keep Sky Moore because I think he's got more upside. They both play for pretty good offenses, so the difference is Sky Moore's going to have more opportunity probably than Johnston, unless Keenan Allen gets hurt or unless like Mike Williams goes down, which is a possibility. let's not get it twisted. There's a possibility that those guys get injured and Quentin Johnston sees a lot of work, or sees a work increase. But at the same time, you do have 3 other first round draft picks of the 2023 NFL draft at receiver in JSN, Addison, and Zay Flowers, who I really like all 3 of those guys to a degree. I think Zay Flowers is probably, look, I even said it back when I did my NFL draft videos and my my mock drafts. I thought Zay Flowers was the best receiver in the draft, but at the same time, Zay Flowers has the worst situation out of all the receivers because he's got really the most competition. He's got a really good tight end in Mark Andrews that could take work from him. They went out and paid Odell a bunch of money, who's going to take work from him, just in the fact that they signed him to a bunch of money. They didn't pay him all that money to not throw the ball to him. And you got Bateman coming back, who's really the number one receiver there. And so Zay Flowers has a lot of competition. He's a crowded receiving room if you include the tight end as well. And so Zay Flowers is a guy who I like, but I like him kind of like in year 2 or year 3. And I really think he could explode probably in those years. Whereas this year, he's going to be okay. I don't think he's going to be the player everybody thinks he's going to be or what he could be, just because he's going to be held back by the competition. And so, whereas like JSN, he also has some competition in Lockett and DK, but it's just Lockett and DK. He doesn't have a tight end to deal with. And you talk about Addison. Really, Addison, I think, has the most upside of all of them. He's taken over for Adam Thielen, who had, he had a ton of targets. He had a ton of targets and really a ton of routes ran. And it's a huge passing offense. I gotta go get this guy. I need another running back. We're good at receiver. We got 5 good ones. That's why we went and got receiver. So we're a little thin here at running back to a degree, but it's not terrible. It's not terrible. And then we got 2 good value late quarterbacks, in my opinion. We do need to go get another tight end, but that's why we got Hawkinson. Yeah, I mean, Minnesota's going to throw the ball a ton. They're going to throw the ball a ton this year again. And as far as like number 2 receivers go, I think Adam Thielen ran the most routes as far as like any number 2 receiver in the league last year. So you got Addison stepping right into that role. So, it's tough, man. I don't know if you, I mean, like I said, if you think you can get by without Damian Harris, then I would consider it. But at the same time, only having 3 running backs, man, it's tough. I wouldn't recommend it, really. I wouldn't recommend it in a league where you have, 15 roster spots? That's probably what you have, right? Let me see here. Hurts, McCaffrey, ETN, DK, Moore, Pitts, Sky Moore, kicker, defense. And you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So yeah, you have 15 roster spots. It's tough to go only 3 running backs, man, because the injuries pop up at any point. And it's tough to go 3 running backs, man. You're going to have to hope your running backs stay healthy. You got ETN, McCaffrey. McCaffrey plays on a team that I could see McCaffrey going down this year to a degree. I hope not, because I don't wish the guy to get hurt, but at the same time, he's got a little bit of a history injury-wise, and he plays for the Niners, who, it's like everybody gets on their, everybody on their team gets hurt every year, it seems like. A bunch of guys go down. And then you have, I mean, I like your running backs. ETN, Gibson, McCaffrey, that's not a bad combo. But all it takes is one guy to go down, like ETN or McCaffrey or even Gibson, who's on the bench, and you're like, oh crap, if McCaffrey or ETN go down, I'm screwed. I got to go. You know what I mean? You're gonna be getting rid of one of those rookie receivers to go pick up a guy off waiver wires that's a running back that you hope can perform. And I do think there's a little bit of upside with Damian Harris. Don't get me wrong. I do like Damian Harris to a degree. But if I had to pick out of those 4 running backs to drop for a receiver, he would be the guy, in my opinion, that has to go. So right now, I would probably... Listen, if you want my honest opinion, I would drop Zay Flowers for Quentin Johnson. That's the route I would go. If you didn't want to get rid of a running back, let's just say you wanted to keep Damian Harris, you're like, I can't get rid of a running back just in case of injuries. I got to keep 4 on the roster. I would drop Zay Flowers for Johnston. My point of view from that perspective would be that I think Johnston's going to outplay Zay Flowers. I'm not saying that he's better than Flowers. I do like Flowers better than... I said Flowers was probably the best receiver to come out of the draft, in my opinion. But he's going to be limited because he's got the most competition of any of the rookie receivers as far as targets and really receptions go, in my opinion. Quentin Johnson plays on a high throwing offense, probably the offense that's going to throw the ball the most next to the Minnesota Vikings. So Addison and Johnson are going to get a ton of receiving work. Addison's the number 2 guy, Johnson's the number 3 guy. They're both going to get a really more of a... I guarantee you both of them, if they stay injury free, get more targets and more catches than Zay Flowers this year. I would almost guarantee it. And then JSN is JSN. I think JSN is still slightly better than Zay Flowers in regards to his opportunity with the Seahawks versus Zay Flowers with the Ravens. And so you said A-Chain is on waivers too. Yeah, A-Chain's got a crowded backfield though. Crowded backfield, and the guy's only going to catch balls. He's not really going to be running between the tackles much this year unless both guys go down and Moser and if Moser and hold on, I got to pick. Who am I going to pick right here? Let's go. They really left me the cream of the crop here. I'm going to continue to draft this guy because, like I said, I just like this guy a ton. Yeah, if Moser and Jeff Wilson go down, A-Chain could get some work. Of course, that's also pending Dalvin Cook or somebody else going to the Dolphins. We don't know yet. So there's always a chance. Garling, what's going on, man? This is one of the best ball Mania drafts. We also, we obviously got the 10 pick, which sucks. I will say our team's not too bad. Obviously, Cousins and Goff, one of those guys are going to have to land for us in order for this to be a decent team. There's no question about it. And really, our running backs are going to have to stay healthy. We're a little bit... It's not terrible at running back, but could be better. We got Najee, Cam Akers, Robinson, and Tank Bigsby so far. Not the greatest, but once again, what are you going to do from the 10 pick, Especially when we got the receiver. We have good receivers. St. Brown, Smith, Watson, Elijah Moore, Sky Moore. And then we got Hawkinson and Gerald Everett. I think Gerald Everett is a sleeper tight end. He's a guy who... He's one of the guys who's outside the top 10. Easily outside the top 10 right now in terms of rankings. Just about everybody's rankings. Who has one of the best shots, I think, to jump into the top 10. Out of nowhere. So Kellen Moore produces pretty good fantasy tight ends over the years in Dallas, and I wouldn't expect anything less this year unless Gerald Everett gets hurt. I know nobody likes Michael Thomas, but he's on waivers too. I mean, the news about Mike Thomas it's good apparently. I mean, it's been trending the right way. I'm not gonna lie, I've been avoiding him. I did take him a little bit last year. He kind of burned me a little bit last year, so he's tough to trust. I don't know, man. I seen the interview with Derek Carr, I think earlier this morning. I was watching NFL Network. They were going through the training camps and stuff, training camp news. They were talking to players from each training camp, and Carr seemed to like Mike Thomas a little bit. Carr talked pretty positive about everybody. He talked positive about Olave, even Rashid Shaheed. Really, he was saying Rashid Shaheed was probably the one guy that like to kind of look out for, and which I'm not shocked. Shaheed's kind of an undervalued guy. I think he's still on the board too. Maybe. Is he still on the board? No, he's not. He's right here. Somebody see Shaheed's draft values actually came up a little bit. He went round 13. He usually goes about round 14 or 15, I think. So I don't know, man. It's gonna be tough. I really, in regards to the Saints players, man, because I feel like they're a little bit loaded on offense. They have a lot of, they got Thomas. If Shaheed is as good as what we think he could be, he's a very good deep ball guy. So is Olave. Olave, I think, really is the clear-cut number one receiver on that team. Although it does kind of hurt his value that Mike Thomas is healthy, or at least quote healthy, and he is potentially going to be pretty good to start the year. We'll see. But you factor that in with Taysom Hill, Jawan Johnson, who's a pretty good tight end, who's also another late tight end here, who just went in round 15, who I think a little bit undervalued. I think he's a lot better than what people draft him as. Like, there's no way I'm taking Gesicki over Jawan Johnson. I don't think I'm taking Herb Smith over Jawan Johnson either, because Jawan Johnson has proven it. And so, and they actually have Foster Moreau as the tight end as well, and they just signed Jimmy Graham too. So who knows, man? And then who knows about Kamara? Kamara may not even get suspended, and it wouldn't shock me. They have a lot of weapons on that offense, and it's going to be tough to tell who's going to provide and who's not going to until we see a few games, or until we see a couple of injuries. And so that's what I'll say about New Orleans. New Orleans is a tough team to evaluate. So, and they have like the easiest schedule of any team this year. On top of it, up there with the Falcons. So we'll see. Probably dropped Zay Flowers for Quentin Johnson, and it was a coin flip between them when I was deciding between them. Yeah, I would. Look, I like all four of those rookie receivers this year, or I like them down the road. But if we're talking just in terms of this year, I guess I'm going to take this guy. His ADP's coming up. I'm going to take him. I'm going to take it's a dart throw. I'm going to take Zamir White. Give me another running back. Maybe Jacobs actually does sit out this year. Who knows? Zamir White was a very good running back at Georgia, by the way. I feel like he just hasn't gotten his opportunity. Yeah, man. If I'm choosing between Zay Flowers and Quentin Johnson, I'm taking the guy, in my opinion, who is going to get he's going to get more opportunities, I think, than Flowers will, just because the receiver room is not as crowded, in my opinion. And the Chargers are going to throw the ball more than anybody in the league this year. It's not even going to be close. The only teams that are going to be really close are the Vikings and maybe my Chiefs. And maybe, God, who else throws the ball a ton? That's really about it. It's going to be between those three teams, but I would say the Chargers probably throw the ball more than anybody this year. And so, give me a receiver that's on that kind of team. These guys are taking like all my players, man. I swear. I'm going to take another running back here. Take that guy. So yeah, give me Quentin Johnson just for this year. Okay, we can evaluate Flowers maybe next year if, say, Odell retires or if he moves on. Remember, Odell's only on a 1-year deal. You know. Now, if Zay Flowers is out there on the waiver wire week 1 or week 2 and something happens to like Odell, say he re-aggravates his knee again, or if Bateman gets hurt again or something, yeah, you might regret probably taking Quentin Johnson in. But at the same time, it's tough to predict those things. It's tough to predict those injuries. Flowers is going to be a really good player once Odell is out of town, which Odell's not going to be in Baltimore for very long. This may be the only year he's there. We'll see. So I do still think Zay Flowers was the best receiver in the draft this year. And time will only tell, but we're not going to know fully this year. Like I said, he's going to be a player that probably gets outperformed by his peers, you know, the other round 1 receivers, just because of the situation. But once Zay Flowers does become that number 1 guy and Odell's out of town, I would watch out for Zay Flowers. You know, he's really a guy that I would not, you know, in Dynasty, I would take him. I would take him if he was there and there was really nobody else there. Drop Nico for Zay Flowers, but I'm dropping Zay Flowers. Yeah. If it's just redraft, man, like I said, it's tough though, man. Really what you wish is you could have more bench spots. That way you could just hold on to all of them. Look at this guy take Justin Ross so early, dude. Get out of here. Get out of here. Get out of here.
Come on, man.
I was going to take him. Maybe. See, this is the thing, dude. Justin Ross, you could almost get him for free. You could get him for free in round 18, and now he's... Because of all the news, man, the news changes a lot of things, especially whenever we're like 3-4 weeks out from drafting, like actual drafting and actual, you know, the season actually starting. Things change in a hurry. So we'll be cautious of that in the next contest that we get in. They should have won't they have another puppy coming out? They should have like another puppy draft coming out, I believe, right? We'll see. I feel like they haven't had a puppy in a while. I know they had the fast puppy and the slow puppy, but I thought they were supposed to have... Yeah, they haven't had a puppy 3 yet. They had puppy 2 contest already. The puppy 3 should be coming out fairly soon. I'd be on the lookout for that if I were you guys. If you guys are interested in the cheaper contest, you know, which I am. I've only done a handful of these best ball manias. I don't do too many of them because they're expensive, but who are we going to get with our next 2 picks, man? Get 6 receivers, 6 running backs, 2 quarterbacks, 2 tight ends. If Stroud falls to us, we'll probably take him. Yeah, as far as Jonathan Taylor goes, I'll circle back to Jonathan Taylor here. I am, like I said, I wasn't high on him to begin with. I have 4 shares of him out of almost 200 teams. I have 4 times that I drafted him out of almost 200 teams on Underdog, at least. I've showed you guys that. I have a few teams on DraftKings. I don't even think I've taken him on DraftKings at all. I always thought the guy went too high. He went right here in round 3, pretty much the middle of round 3. I would say about 29 to 25 is where I always thought he should have went. I showed you guys earlier, back when we were doing the Poodle 2, which would have been back in like the middle of May. He was a 13.8 ADP. The guy drafted him at 14th. I seen a guy draft him at 16th in one of those leagues. And then we went back and looked at the fast puppy, or maybe it was one of the Chihuahuas. He was going like 17 point something ADP. And I seen a guy pretty much draft him at 19, 20, 21. So he was going about middle of round 2 a couple of weeks ago. Now This is literally the first draft I've done after the news of the trade request. Here he goes, middle of round 3. This is where about I thought he should have went in the first place. Obviously, you see Jacobs sliding down. I took Najee over Jacobs and Brees. I do think Dalvin Cook's going to be a Jet. That's not saying I'm not going to draft Brees ever, but I'm looking to get Brees in round 4 now, pretty much from here on out. I'm going to take the guy who I know has the backfield to himself for the most part, the guy who is the bell cow in Najee Harris, who I think is a really good value pick, especially if you could get him in round 4, obviously, which is going to be tough now. He's going to go at the end of round 3 pretty much every time from here on out. Especially with the Jacobs news, the Dalvin Cook news, the Jonathan Taylor news. But like I said, I was never high on Jonathan Taylor to begin with. I have 4 shares of him of almost 200 total teams I've drafted. Look, I didn't know the trade request was coming. I didn't, I don't think anybody predicted that, but I wasn't high on him because of the vulturing that Richardson was going to take from him, in which Richardson may not start the season off as a starter, but he's going to eventually come in, week 4, week 5, week 6, who knows when, but I would say probably around that time period, maybe even earlier. We'll see. I guess it just depends on how bad of a start they get off to, which it probably won't be as good as what people think, but you get a running quarterback, and a running quarterback's going to take away from the running back. That's just how it is. That is just how it is. That's the way the cookie crumbles. And you factor that in with them probably not being very competitive this year. Like I said at the beginning of the show, the win total for the Colts was 6.5. I've already made a bet on the under 6.5 on DraftKings. I have I don't know what the bet is. It's like $20-25, but I've already bet the under for the team total wins this year on the Colts, because I don't think they're going to be that competitive. And so you factor in him being probably on a non-competitive team who's going to have a top 10 draft pick in this year's draft again coming up. You factor that in with a quarterback who's going to take rushing yards away from him, who has been known to not dump the ball off to his running back in college. And then you factor in him still being on the PUP list. It's one thing for Brees to be on the PUP list, and I'm not really worried about Brees to a degree. I am worried about Cook coming in and stealing some of his production, but I'm not worried about Brees' injury really that much. So you factor that in. You factor all of that stuff in, and now you get this trade request. I'm telling you, I definitely would be staying away from him now. There's no question in my mind. God, who are we going to take here? Where's Quez Watkins? Is he on the board? Give me this guy. What the heck? We'll just take this guy. I'm going to take Josh Downs. Josh Downs could actually... He could maybe benefit from this Taylor stuff going on. So... But yeah, you factor all that stuff going on with Jonathan Taylor, and then you factor in this trade request. This is very, very uncommon. I don't remember the last time we've seen a running back who's been in the league for 3 years going into their 4th year, who was pretty good, obviously 2 years ago, number 1 running back in fantasy 2 years ago. I don't know if we've seen a guy request a trade like this and be super unhappy with the organization and obviously the owner because of the comments he made. I don't know if we've seen something like this in a while. I'm trying to think of when the last time we've seen this. You could say Le'Veon Bell, but Le'Veon Bell wasn't he was already, how long he'd already been with the Steelers for a while, right? He wasn't a guy who was going in year 3 guy going into year 4. I'm pretty sure, right? I mean, Taylor's still, he's still on contract, and he's still he hasn't even gotten into year 4 yet. Eric Dickerson? Yeah, but Eric Dickerson played in the 80s, bro. That's what I'm saying. That's how long it's been since we've had a scenario like this. this is going to get muddy. This is muddied waters that this whole scenario is treading in. And like I said, you factor in the vulturing of the production from the quarterback, who will vulture from him. Okay, he will. I don't know when it's going to be. It just depends on when he becomes a starter. But eventually, he's going to vulture rushing attempts. He's going to vulture rushing yards and touchdown production from him, because that's who Anthony Richardson is as a quarterback. He's a run-first guy who can develop as a passer like Jalen Hurts, but it may take him time to do that, and I don't see him getting all of that done in 1 year as a rookie. And so I would say expect probably Richardson to run fairly often when he eventually plays, and that's going to take away from Taylor, and that's just the bottom line. And then you factor in this injury that's still lingering, that he had surgery on, that we would have hoped he is kind of recovered from. I mean, Cooper Kupp is doing outstanding after his surgery on his ankle. He's had no limitations in practice at training camp, and yet here we are with, Taylor on the PUP list over his ankle from last year still. So that's it's a little bit, I wouldn't say I'm like super worried about that, but it's kind of concerning. It's like, why is this guy not ready to go? Who knows? Maybe he is ready to go, and he's playing this, this card about his injury because he's unhappy about not getting his extension yet. And then the owner on top of that comes out and basically calls out these running backs for getting together on a Zoom meeting and talking about how they've already worked for, it took years to get the new CBA done that they had, the CBA that they're currently in to get done. And so, which I don't blame the owner for saying or for thinking that. He shouldn't have said it out loud, obviously, because all you're going to do is piss people off, especially when you are the next team to probably deal with the situation where you have to pay a running back and Jonathan Taylor. Jonathan Taylor's the next guy on the list to experience the Jacobs and Barkley situation that we've already seen play out last week. And so he probably should just kept his mouth shut, but at the same time, he's a billionaire. He's an owner. He can say whatever he wants. This is America, and he probably doesn't give a damn what anybody thinks. I wouldn't either if I was a billionaire. I'd probably say whatever the heck I wanted to. And if you don't like it, then you can kick rocks and I'll go draft another running back next year. You watch. I bet you. And Irsay is one of those owners who probably is a very ignorant, I wouldn't say ignorant, but he's a very stern guy, probably stands by a lot of the things he says, no nonsense kind of guy. I wouldn't be shocked if he just goes and drafts another running back this year, like in round 1 or round 2, like, this coming draft. We'll see how this all plays out. But I'm telling you right now, the trade request coming in the middle of training camp, if you guys heard the press conference, it really wasn't a press conference. He came out of the meeting and he was talking to the press on the field or on the sideline or whatever there at training camp. And if you go back and watch that video of him talking to the press, there's no way, even as a Colts fan or as somebody who owns Jonathan Taylor, there's no way that you can watch that interview that the press conference with the press and come out optimistic about the situation that Jonathan Taylor's facing, and really just the optimistic nature of maybe him being a good fantasy producer for you this year. It's terrible. I mean, the guy, he tried to sugarcoat whatever he was trying to say to the press, but it was terrible. It was basically it was like watching a politician lie to the American people on TV, which happens obviously every single night. That's what it looked like. And you could basically see through the BS that he was trying to say and be like, yeah, these guys are not on good terms. That's basically what I took away from it. They're not on good terms. Who knows, man? Who knows what's going to happen with some of these running backs that are... I think Barkley will be okay. I do worry about Barkley's total touches that he had last year and him being able to replicate that again this year and still be a fairly good producer, a top 5 fantasy football producer at the running back position. I think it's going to be tough for him. Jacobs, I've already told you guys I'm out on Jacobs. Like, even if there's a fire, I'm out on Jacobs. And with Taylor, like I said, I have 4 shares of him out of like 200 teams. Not a fan of him. Wasn't really a fan of him at all, especially at his price tag. I thought his price tag was too high to begin with, especially considering a running back who did nothing but be hurt all of last year. And this guy was going at the beginning of round 2 on a team that is not going to be competitive this year, in my opinion. And so you factor all those things in with the quarterback, the competitiveness of the team, the injury concern, a little bit of an injury concern here, and then now you get the trade request. So I would rather take a chance on Stevenson in round 3. Let me go back to the draft here. You got Stevenson that you can get later than him. Of course, this was the first draft I'd seen Stevenson really go before him. You could get Pollard, who was going after Taylor, obviously, before today. Even Najee, Gibbs, Brees, Etienne, I would strongly consider those guys over him too right now. I really would. Etienne plays on a good offense. Brees will be on a good offense. We'll see what happens with the Cook situation. Gibbs plays on a decent offense as well. He's going to have to catch about 70 balls, though, probably, to really kind of live up to his ADP, but that's very, very possible, obviously. And so, like I said, man, I was out on Taylor to begin with. I'm still out on Taylor. It's really a close case at this point, in my opinion. Like I said, dude, I have all these drafts right here. Out of the NFL 2023 season drafts that I've done, I'll go through and show you guys. That way I'm not lying to you guys. I got 4 shares of Taylor, 2.8% of the time. And then I literally have no shares of him. If we go, so that's just off these 145 teams. If I go to the Superflex, these 2 best balls that I did, the pre-draft best balls, the weekly winners, if I go to the weekly winners, all of these other categories of drafts, Taylor, I got nothing of him. Literally nothing. I have nothing. So, nothing here in the 14 weekly winners. I go to the Superflex, the 25 Superflexes I've done. Taylor. Nothing. I'm telling you guys, I was never high on this guy to begin with. I promise you guys. I'm not lying to you guys. I got 2.8% of them in the in the 145 here, and then literally in the 14 weekly winners, the 25 Superflexes, these 10 Superflexes, these 2 pre-draft best. I got nothing of him because I just wasn't high on him. I just wasn't, and it's because of last year. It's because of the injury. Because I thought the price tag was too high. I thought the early second round was way too high. I was like, how's this guy going at the beginning of the second round, off of a season like that? And really a team that's not going to be competitive. They're not going to be competitive again this year. I wouldn't be shocked if they have a top 10 pick in the draft this coming year. It will not shock me whatsoever. And like I said, man, was never high on him. He is a good running back. I do think he could once again be a good running back in fantasy at some point, but it's just not going to be this year. It's just not going to be this year. And this trade request only muddies the waters even more. This guy's not going to be motivated to go out there and play for this team and this owner. I mean, I think everything that we've seen today really it basically tells us that. And this guy, like, who knows, man? You might, for all we know, he's on the pup list just because he's I wouldn't say malingering, even though that's technically the term. A malingerer is somebody who fakes an injury, right? That's what malingering is. I wouldn't really call it malingering, but I would just say it's like, don't be shocked if you see some of these running backs, if especially if they don't have like a good start to the season and the team's not winning football games. They're gonna be like, oh man, my calf is kind of sore today. It's it's kind of like Joe Burrow's calf. It's a little sore today. I think I'll take a couple of weeks off. Yeah, coach, I can't play this week, man. I'm sorry, man. I this calf is just bugging me, man. That's what I would be shocked if some of these players kind of play that card, because the team's losing. They didn't get their contract. They didn't get their extension. These owners are basically giving them the middle finger, when it comes to paying them. And so, you know what? Hey, my groin hurt, my shoulder's hurting today, coach. My groin is hurting today. So I might have to miss a couple of weeks, especially if it's later in the season and the team's not competing for a playoff spot. And so when you own these guys in fantasy, and it comes week 14, week 15, when you really need these guys, especially if you're playing head-to-head, which I'm not, but even if you're not playing the head-to-head and you're playing overall fantasy points at the end of the year, you still need guys to produce week in and week out for you. It's, it wouldn't shock me if these running backs kind of play that card, and then you are screwed in fantasy. You're screwed for maybe a couple of weeks or maybe a few more weeks than what you should be, because maybe they prolong an injury out. Because why not? The team is not paying me what I deserve, and I'm looking forward to a new contract. And you know what? If they want to give me the middle finger, well, I'm going to give them the middle finger back by taking maybe an extra week or two to heal my injury that maybe they could play through. And so that's what kind of worries me about maybe like even Barkley. Maybe Barkley could be in that category. I think Barkley's a little bit more loyal, and you could, if you've seen that interview that he did with Money Matters, you can tell he's a very, very loyal player who wants to win, who wants to play. And Barkley, really, the Giants have a better chance of making the playoffs, I think, than the Colts and the Raiders do anyways. Probably what Darren Waller did, fake injury. Hold on a second, let me go back to this real quick. Browser source. Yeah, Waller. I don't know, Waller. Yeah, Waller could have been faking it last year. It wouldn't shock me. Would not shock me. Let me move this up a little bit here. Yeah, Waller fake injury. Yeah, it wouldn't shock me, man, because that's what I would do. That's what I would. You know what I mean? If I wasn't getting paid the money that I thought I deserved, and then, say I did maybe sprain my ankle a little bit. Yeah, I'm gonna milk it. I'm gonna milk it for as long as I can, especially when I'm in the last year of my contract. They're probably gonna franchise tag me the next year anyway if I do end up playing good. So you know what? Screw them. Really, but here's the thing, man. The running backs are in a lose-lose situation. They have no leverage, man. And I'm not saying that they should have a ton of leverage. I don't think that they should have the same leverage that NBA players have, but I do think they should have a little more than what they have right now. They're in a really tough spot. Because if Taylor goes out and plays well, if he goes out and plays super well this year, let's just say he does decide to play, he does decide to give it his all, he doesn't try to fake an injury or something like that, or prolong an injury for what it could be. He goes out, finishes as a top 5 running back. You know what's going to happen? They're going to franchise tag him next year. They're going to franchise tag. Here's $10 million, 1 year, no long-term extension. Gotcha. That's what's going to happen. So, but if he decides to maybe do what I'm insisting that could possibly happen, if he gets injured, maybe he prolongs it for a couple of weeks, maybe he doesn't end up really being a top 10 fantasy running back or really a top 10 back in general in the league. They end up being non-competitive, which I think they will be. They're not going to make the playoffs. They win maybe 5 or 6 games. let's just say the Colts decide not to keep him after this year because they could let him go. What team is going to be like, oh my God, Jonathan Taylor had a really bad season last year, really not very good, and then he was injured back in 2022. Yeah, we'll sign you, but we're not going to give you the money that he's looking for right now. They're not going to give him a $14-15 million contract a year. Didn't Antonio Brown take an injury too? That's what they say. I don't know. He would say the opposite. You're talking about, I remember, yeah, you're talking about that last year in Tampa Bay. I don't know if he did or not. Maybe he did, maybe he didn't. I think the gist of that story was that, like, the team doctors were basically saying he was cleared to play, and then he didn't think he was. He had like another opinion from another doctor outside of the team or whatever, and I guess he got a different opinion. But who knows? I don't know. I never interviewed Antonio Brown or asked him or interviewed correspondents for the team and stuff, so my guess is somebody's lying. Obviously, we don't know who either Antonio Brown was or the team was, but yeah. So, and that's what's always going to happen, you know. If the same thing happens, similar to like with Jonathan Taylor this year, he's going to say, "Oh, I was hurt." He's never going to tell the truth whether or not he was actually hurt and he needed to have a couple extra weeks off or not, and the team's going to say the opposite of what he says. So you're always going to have two different sides to the story, and nobody's really going to know. And really it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Only thing that matters is that you try to avoid a situation like that if you can in fantasy. Oh, you're talking about the Raiders to the Patriots? Yeah, he could have. That, and he was just, really his character issues really within the Raiders that year too. I think that was crazy, man. Remember, because he signed a bunch of money. He signed for a bunch of money that year, and then it was just like one day in training camp, everything. Remember, he had that interaction with Mike Mayock, the general manager at the time. And so I think that pretty much did him in, and they were like, okay, we got to get rid of this guy. And then, yeah, and then the injury, yeah. And so, yeah, the whole Raiders to the Patriots thing, yeah, that was kind of a similar situation as well. Very, very similar. I don't know. What do you guys think of JT? Wendigo? What do you think? What's your opinion of JT? Are you drafting him? You drafting this guy? Are you drafting him even if he falls around 3, like the middle of round 3, like he did in this past draft that I just did? Are you taking him at like 29 overall, the middle of round 3? Are you hopefully you don't own him in like a dynasty league or something? Jack says was planning on avoiding JT even before this, but how far does he need to fall to feel good to draft? Man, I don't know. That's the $1 million question. Is how far does he need to fall for you to like, okay, I can take a chance on him? Because you got to think about it. You got to take, like, if you want to get the value on him, you have to take him now. Because say like a week from now or 2 weeks from now, like, oh, it seems like they've patched things up and, it's water under the bridge. Well, at that point, if we get news like that and say like a week or two, well, his ADP is going to come back up. Everybody's like, okay, he's going to play. It's water under the bridge. Let's draft him now. He's going to go right back up to probably early. Well, I wouldn't say early. He's going to go mid to late round 2 probably then. And so for me, man, it's tough, man, because I don't like scenarios like this. Because one, when you have a player where you're not high on to begin with, and then on top of it, you have this. Because look, no matter what happens, okay? Let's just say in 2 weeks. Let's say in 2 weeks. See, Wendigo says, yeah, yeah. Not drafting him at all. Jack says, I guess most drafts won't happen until something comes out about this. Look. Well, yeah, that's the thing. Like in my main leagues, I don't draft until September 4th, 5th, and 6th in my 3 main leagues, and which is literally the 3 days before the opening game between the Chiefs and the Lions. That's why you don't draft until those days, though, because of crap like this that just came up, where he could actually end up getting traded. I highly doubt it. It would have to be. I'm not saying it couldn't happen. It could. But the team that trades for him is going to have to give up more than what they probably are willing to give up. And then on top of it, they have to hope. They would have to get some kind of acknowledgement that Jonathan Taylor is going to re-sign with them. Because you got to remember, his contract's up after this year if they trade him. Let's say he gets traded in the middle of the season. He's going to provide whatever he provides to that team, but then at the end of the year, I guess I don't know if they I don't know if they could franchise tag him or not. I'm really not sure about that. I don't think they could. They may, I don't know, maybe they could. But if they wanted to maybe sign him to a long-term extension, they're going to have to get they're going to have to make sure he's on board. And so the likelihood of him getting traded is, I don't think it's very good. And plus, with Irsay coming out and saying basically we're not trading him at all, I don't believe that. I think he would entertain offers, but at the same time, it just depends on what they might get. If he's on the, here's the thing about Taylor is that, like, I forget what I was going to say before I started answering your guys' questions. What I was going to say is, like, if you're not already high on a guy, if you're not already like super high on a guy and you already have doubts about the guy because the fact that Richardson's coming in, the fact that their offense is probably not going to be very good, and the team's probably going to be below 500 on top of that, and then you have something like this happen. Let's say, like I said, in 2 weeks, if they say, oh, bridge on, it's water under the bridge. They patched things up. He said he's going to play this and that. At the end of the day, this guy is still going to be unhappy with the organization, and there's always going to be that possibility of where maybe he sits out a little bit longer if he gets injured. Let's just say he rolls his ankle again or something. There's always going to be that possibility where he, like, okay, I'm going to take it actually, I'm going to take it easy. I'm going to take it easy, take maybe a couple more weeks off than what maybe I would normally do to recover from this injury. There's always going to be that animosity between him and the organization, the owner, I think, because him coming out to request a trade in the middle of training camp, going into his fourth year, into his last contract year, it's not a good sign. At the end of the day, there's still going to be animosity between him and the Colts, and that's a situation I do not want to be a part of, especially if I have to spend a second round draft pick on him. Which obviously he went in the third round this past draft that we just did, but every other draft I've done leading up to this draft, he's virtually always gone in round 2, whether that's the beginning, middle, or end. So that's why I only have 4 shares of this guy. Because just like some of you guys, I wasn't very high on him anyways. What a great time to not be a professional running back. Yeah, that ain't no kidding. That's not no kidding. And these guys are screwed, bro. These guys are screwed until 2030 at least, because that's when the CBA expires. It's 2030. So they're screwed for the next 7 years, virtually. 6 years or whatever, six and a half. So the NFLPA is going to have to do better by them to shorten the rookie contracts, or like what Bijan's making $5.5 million per year, right? Which is pretty high for a running back. I think Zeke made a little bit more whenever he signed his rookie deal. He made about a little more than $6 million, or about $6 million a year. But they're going to have to make it to where these guys are making $8 to $10 million, maybe even a little more than that on their, per year on their rookie deals. And if they can't get that, then they're going to have to get the rookie deals to be like a 2-year contract with no third year option and with no franchise tag. There's not even anything they can do about it. Yeah, there's nothing they can do about it. They have about as much power as me and you do, and we don't even play in the NFL. So JT was traded to the Ravens, I would draft him. I don't think that's going to be an option, man. I don't even think that's on the table. I know Smitty was talking about that earlier. I went back and watched a little bit of what he was saying, but I don't think it's an option. They went out and got Melvin Gordon, signed him to a $3.1 million deal, and he's not even the starter. I mean, there's a chance he's going to play a little bit behind Dobbins, but if Dobbins does play, he's ready to go. Dobbins is going to play, and then Gordon's there. They still have Gus Edwards. They're not. I'm telling you right now, I guarantee you there's nobody in the Ravens front office that's like, oh my God, this is our chance to go get Taylor. They're not saying that. I mean, you still have Zeke, and I'm not saying he's not better than Zeke. He's obviously better than Zeke. He's better than Fournette. He's better than Kareem Hunt. He's better than a lot of, pretty much all these free agent running backs out there that still haven't landed anywhere. He's better than Cook, but those guys can't even find a place to land, bro. And so, yeah, 2-year rookie deal. It screws up other things for other positions. Yeah. I don't know, man. I don't have the answers to it. I don't know what they're going to do. The only thing that they can really, like I said, the biggest problem is that the quarterbacks get paid so much money. Instead of these quarterbacks getting 30, 40, 50 mil a year, they should just be getting like 30. And then that would make up a bunch of money to go that can be allocated to the running back. The problem is that the organization, or these football teams, they don't value the running back position anymore. And why should they? Why should they? All the guys that are, if you go back and look at like the last 10 Super Bowl winners, they don't have a Jonathan Taylor running back. They don't have a Zeke Elliott running back. They don't, or at least Zeke back in the day. You look at Todd Gurley, like I said to start off the show, Todd Gurley, the Rams built their offense around Todd Gurley. And Kareem Hunt still has some production in him. Yeah, he does. It's just a matter of where he goes. But going back to Todd Gurley, the Rams built that offense around him. All right, that was Sean McVay's idea, was to build the offense around Todd Gurley. You had a superstar running back. You go get offensive linemen. You go get a number 1 overall quarterback in Jared Goff, who obviously didn't really live up to that expectation. But you go get a decent quarterback, put him back there with that running back, with that rushing attack. You have a decent defense, You get to the Super Bowl, and you lose to the Patriots 13-3 in a horrible game that was not fun to watch because Gurley ends up missing the Super Bowl because he was hurt. They only scored 3 points because you have an offense that's built around a running back who is not on the football field because he's hurt. And so, ever since that football game against the Patriots where they lost 13-3 in the Super Bowl, that's when the running back position basically died as far as the value of it. You look how the Rams moved on. They went and traded Goff to go get a gunslinging quarterback who still had a little bit juice left in the tank, at least enough juice to get them to the Super Bowl and win it, which they did. They built that offense around Cooper Kupp, Matthew Stafford, gunslinging quarterback, a guy who can throw the ball, beat you guys through the air. Remember, they had Kevin O'Connell as their offensive coordinator, who is now the coach of the Vikings, who's going into year 2 as the Vikings head coach now, who, if you look at the Vikings, they throw the ball a ton too now. He's taken that same formula that Sean McVay used to win the Super Bowl a couple years ago, same formula that my Chiefs used, the same formula that Tom Brady and the Buccaneers used to win their Super Bowl. You look at all these teams that have won the Super Bowl after that season, they're not any team that has a superstar running back. None of them. The Bucs never had a superstar running back. Fournette was okay, but he's not Breece Hall. He's not Bijan. He's not Jonathan Taylor. He's not Ezekiel Elliott back in the day. He's a guy who can get you by. You look at the Chiefs. They had Damian Harris, or no, not Damian Harris. They had Damian Williams as their running back with Clyde Edwards-Helaire, who's not very good, obviously, either. He's not a guy who's like, oh my God, this is a superstar talent. You look at all these teams that have won the Super Bowl ever since that formula of having Gurley, because McVay realized once Gurley went down, as soon as you built an offense with a blueprint to have a running back lead you the way, run the offense through the running back, as soon as that running back goes down, you're screwed. You have no chance at winning the Super Bowl. And that's exactly what happened when they lost to Brady and the Patriots. And so all these teams are moving on from that blueprint. The new blueprint is to go get a gunslinging quarterback like Mahomes, like a Stafford, like a Brady. You go back and look at those years that Brady, obviously the year that he won the Super Bowl with the Bucs, and really the last 2 years. On top of that, so the last 3 years with the Bucs, you go back and look, the Bucs were one of the heaviest passing offenses in the game. So that's why the new blueprint is to go get a gunslinging quarterback, superstar quarterback, go get him some receivers, get him a 2 or 3 headed monster running back room that has a couple of pass catchers on it, and then build a little bit of a defense. That's what's going to win you a Super Bowl. That's what's going to get you to the playoffs, get you to the Super Bowl. The days of going and getting Eric Dickerson, going and getting Todd Gurley, going and getting, a 2-headed monster in the running back and just drafting offensive linemen and just pounding the rock, those days are over, man. They're over, I think. So, and really another factor into why that those days are over is because of the way the rules have changed. There's so many rules that benefit the receivers, the offense, the quarterback. You can't even touch the quarterback now without it being a penalty. And so it benefits a team to pass the ball more than to beat them with the run game and defense. Those days are over. And that's why the running backs are in the predicament that they're in right now. So Jack says, or the Super Bowl winning teams do have a guy like that. He's on his, yeah, exactly. That's the formula, dude. That is the formula. So Zeke visited the Patriots. Yeah, he didn't walk away with a deal though. Like I said, man, I'm huge on Ramondre Stevenson. These are my nuclear players. I need to add Ridley to this list because I am starting to like Ridley a little more.
Dropping mushrooms on the competition. Draft as many nuclear players as you can to demolish other league members in fantasy football this year.
These are my players that I got exploding this year. Yeah, good head coach helps as well. Definitely Wendigo. Yeah, you look at a lot of the teams that have won the Super Bowls over the last few years. They've all had good head coaches. Yeah, we might add Ridley to this at some point. Ridley's starting to look pretty good. He's going earlier in drafts now. I was a little skeptical on him back in like May or so, but at the same time, man, when I see some of these clips, the eye, I look at, I give it the eye test, and it's tough not to like somebody like Calvin Ridley right now. And I'm obviously really high on Trevor Lawrence this year as well, and so I think Ridley's going to be a big part of that as well. Yeah, good head coach. You can still run the ball a lot, but running back by committee is the new normal, I think. Yeah, to a degree. It's definitely good to have like a little bit of a 1-2 punch, a good guy between the tackles and then a good change of pace back. I'm super high on Stevenson, like I said. I think if Zeke went to the Patriots, it would be better than Cook, it would be better than Fournette, and better than Kareem Hunt. I'd rather Zeke go to the Patriots than any of those other 3 guys I just mentioned. I think I'm still drafting, like I'm still more optimistic, I would say, at that point if Zeke was there versus the other 3 guys, because I think Zeke is done, okay? Zeke is literally done. We've been over this. I'll pull up my spreadsheet here, going over the, some pretty key efficiency stats over the running backs, but Zeke he's done. He's done skis. I think Kareem has a little bit left in the tank. I even think Fournette he's got more in the tank than Zeke does. And so does Cook. I think Cook has a little more. Of course, I think Cook will be a Jet here pretty soon. All right, let's go over this. I do have new rankings, by the way. I do have new rankings as far as my top. I actually adjusted my rankings a few days ago. I gotta change this real quick so I can put your guys' comments up here. There it is. I put Fields on this list, but he's going too early in drafts. He's starting to go later, though. He's starting to go later. He's starting to go consistently in round 5. If you guys watched any of my content, which you guys probably didn't, a few months ago, back in especially back in April and really into May, Fields was consistently going in round 3, like right next to Lamar, and I said it was too high. I thought it was too high. I'm glad that he's going in round 5. I can buy him now at round 5. It is tough, though, because I'm super high on Herbert, and I'm pretty high on Lawrence. And Burrow's usually there at the end of round 4 for the most part. But I do think Fields in round 5, it's way, like when people, I'm telling you, there's a bunch of people drafting him in round 3. I was not one of those guys. I don't have any shares of Fields whenever he went in round 3. Maybe I had one just because I wanted to try it. But I wasn't high on him when he was consistently going in like the middle of round 3 next to Lamar like a few months ago, and I thought it was way too high. We go over these running back stats here. Let me make the camera smaller so you guys can see this. I'm gonna try to blow this up a little bit too, so you guys can see it as well. So if we go down to Zeke here, if I can find the guy, there he is. Try to highlight him for you guys. You see I have my player notes over here. So this number right here, you guys see this column right here, the Z column? This is yards created per touch. This is a crucial stat for running backs. How many yards are they creating per touch? How many yards are they creating? If they can create on their own, it's it's a key figure when you're looking at running backs. How much, what are they creating per touch? How many yards total are they creating on their own? A guy who can create on his own is a guy who is usually a good fantasy football running back. You look at these guys at the top here. If it's purple or blue, blue is like pretty elite. Purple is like best of the best, pretty much. It's like top 5 guys. Let me. Well, don't do that. Hold on a second. I'm gonna hide this real quick. Yeah, hide. All right, that way you guys can see who these players are. Obviously, we don't have Bijan up here because he's a rookie. He doesn't have any yards created per touch last year. I don't really know what they are. You'd have to go back and look at like stat reference probably for college football. What do I gotta do to ask? Just watch, dude. Just watch. Anything you want to know, I'll go over. I don't really put it out to anybody, and I'm not like one of those other YouTubers who's like, oh, pay me $5, I'll give you my subscription to my blueprint and all this crap. I'll just show you guys. But like yards created per touch, McCaffrey 3.6, that's pretty good. Anything that is, and then like I have the rank right here. So like McCaffrey was 12th. There was 11 other running backs who were better yards created per touch, but 3.26 is pretty good. That means like he's still pretty good. But you look at like Zeke, because this is a huge stat. This is why I wouldn't really care if Zeke went to the Patriots. This dude has no juice in the tank. He was 54th overall last year, 1.42 yards created per touch. Remember, Zeke had 248 touches last year, so it wasn't like the numbers were skewed because he only got 20 rushes, and they just happened to be when all the backups were in, and he had nobody blocking for him, and that's why it's skewed. No, it's not skewed. He had 250 touches almost last year, or 250 rushes. I think he had close to 275, 280 if you count the receptions or whatever. This is a clear indication that Zeke is done. He's done. 54th in yards created per touch. He cannot produce by himself anymore. He needs the best offensive line in the game in order to produce. Basically, is what this tells you. And so, like Jaylen Warren was a very good producer, as a backup to Najee. This is why people kind of like him a little bit, especially a handcuff to Najee, because he's got juice in him. He can create on his own. This is rushing and pass catching, and so but yeah, you got a guy to, if they're in the bronze right here, if they're bronze or whatever you want to call this, I call it bronze. So usually not a good sign. Zeke 1.42. I mean, Gus Edwards is terrible. I wouldn't say he's terrible, but he's not good. And he had a better yards created per touch. James Robinson, better yards created. Chase Edmonds. These are guys who are pretty much unheard of nowadays that probably won't be number one running backs ever again in their career. So Zeke is done, bro. You see my player notes. Do not draft. He's irrelevant. And look, I made this a long time ago. I really haven't touched this at all. These are just because I made this spreadsheet a while ago, probably back in like May or April. But you look at Eckler, he's still good to go. You look at Breece Hall. Breece Hall was third in yards created per touch. This is why I'm huge on Breece. Breece is a guy, if he comes back fully healthy, I do worry about Cook going to the Jets, but Breece is a guy. He is that dude. He's that dude. Third best yards created per touch last year. And he had, you know, I can let's take his rushing attempts here. Zeke had what? 231 plus the receptions is right here. Plus the 17 receptions. So yeah, it was 248 total touches for Zeke. I was right. So yeah. Let's go here. We don't need to see the rushing attempts. Let's hide these. Target share, red zone touches, receptions, rank. We can take out the reception yards. We don't really need route participation. We do kind of want to look at. A lot of these are important. Not all of them are super important, but a lot of them are. We'll take out total touchdowns, rank. All right, so for the most part, we can see most of it. Let's see, yards. We don't need to see the yards created. We just need to see per touch. True yards per carry, like Breece was a 5.3. That's true yards per carry is yards per carry when you take away the big plays. So Breece's yards per carry was like 5.8, but if you go off the true value, it's 5.3. That's basically, so any rush that was 10 yards or more is eliminated from the, in this stat category. So it takes away all the big plays. Anything that was a 10-yard rush or more, that's what true yards per carry is. It gives you a more consistent value on what their actual yards per carry is on a regular basis, right? Between the 1 and 10 yards. And it gives you kind of a more efficiency type number, because if somebody reels off a 94-yard run and then they finish the game, let's just say like somebody has a 94-yard touchdown run and then they carry the ball 19 more times in that game to have a total of 20 carries, but then they only finished with like 120 yards. Obviously, their yards per carry is going to be skewed because they had a 94-yard run. So if you take away those big plays, it gives you kind of a more accurate yards per carry. So really, and this is good. I mean, 5.3 is good. So, and this is Breece. Najee Harris obviously was a little bad last year. Of course, I credit a lot of this to his offensive line. I see a little on here about it, but what's your thoughts on the Bears backfield? I like Herbert. I do like Herbert to a degree. Herbert is actually a pretty efficient back. Let me get down to Herbert here. Where's Herbert at? I hate how many guys are in their backfield. I do like Roschon Johnson too. Johnson, obviously we don't have anything on him because he's a rookie down here. I just said handcuff him. My player notes says handcuff him to Herbert. I think Foreman's ultimately going to be the odd man out. Where the heck is Herbert? Here he is. So Herbert, you look at Herbert, his yards his yards created per touch, 3.29, 9th overall. He is a good running back. He's a very good running back. Montgomery was always just in the way. I said that about, last year. I wasn't streaming any of this stuff last year, but I owned Herbert actually last year. He wasn't my number one guy, but he was a third or fourth stringer that I had on my roster. But I started him that week that he played really, really well whenever Montgomery missed. He's a sleeper for sure. He's got a running quarterback who ran for almost 1,200 yards last year, who I don't think is going to do that again this year. He probably runs for 600, 700, 800, probably somewhere in the ballpark of that, but I don't think he's going to run for, what was it, 1,143 yards last year. So that kind of eats into his opportunity. And then obviously Montgomery really not missing a ton of time kind of hurt him as well. 5.2, what is this? Is true yards per carry, 5.2 for Herbert. I mean, he's a good back efficiency wise, which is a good sign. He's still a little young. It's just tough, man, when they go out and get somebody like Roshan. I wasn't even really concerned about Foreman. I didn't care that they went out and got Foreman. I think Herbert's a better back than him. He's going to beat him out in camp. He's going to beat him on the field in production. Roshan, though, when they drafted Roshan, I was like, whoa, this isn't good, because I think Roshan is really good. I think Roshan's... People don't know how good Roshan is because he was the backup to Bijan at Texas. And so people don't really know how good he was unless you watch college football regularly and you watch Texas play and you've seen him. I think Roshan makes me a little bit less likely to take Herbert, but Herbert is a good value running back in round 11 or whatever he goes in now, round 11-ish. And he's very efficient. The numbers would tell you to go get Herbert. 9th in true, or 5.2 true yards per carry, 9th in yards created per touch, which is a good sign. The guy has juice. You've seen it whenever he played when Montgomery missed a few games over the last 2 years. You've seen Herbert. You're like, whoa, this guy's like quietly good. And so my player notes on him is decent value, can draft in later rounds. He's a decent value that you can get in the later rounds. That's what my player notes were on him a few months ago. And so, it's orange because it's caution, it's yellow. Yellow is kind of caution. Orange is also caution, but it's like a little more caution. Yellow is like caution because he's got probably competition in the backfield, or he's got a running quarterback and this, and so Foreman was able to be productive with Hubbard around last year, but yeah, Herbert is good and Roshan is a question mark. I don't really think Roshan's a question. I mean, he is a question mark because we haven't seen enough of him, but Roshan has the size. I think he has the ability, if you've been paying attention to, back when he played in college. I mean, this guy would have been a really good running back if Bijan was not there. I'm not saying he would have been Bijan, but he would have been... I think his draft value would have been a little bit better this year if, say, he played for a school where he was, literally the number one guy and he didn't have to share... Really, he didn't even share the backfield with Bijan. It was Bijan's backfield, and he just kind of came in every once in a while. But if he played for, Texas Tech or some other school Texas Tech throws the ball a ton, but if he played for another school that gave him opportunity and he was the number one dude, I think Roshan would have probably been drafted a little higher than what he went in this year's draft. And then now that he's attached to Herbert, it's tough, man, because I like Herbert, and I say, I wouldn't be frowned upon to the scenario where you go get 2 early running backs and then you go get Herbert as your 3rd and you take Roshan as your 4th and handcuff the 2. Stud at Texas came in as a QB2. Yeah. I mean, I like Roshan, man. But I like Herbert a lot as well. I'm telling you right now, Herbert... We'll see, man. We'll see what happens, man. We're gonna need to see an injury of some sort. I'm not wishing for Foreman to get injured, but we're gonna need to see an injury from somebody, bro. If we want Herbert to maybe be a little bit of a league winner, you know what I mean? I'm not saying he is a league winner, but he could be. It just depends on what happens, man. He needs that backfield to kind of clear up a little bit. And then we need to thoroughly see that Fields isn't going to run as much, which I know they're saying he's not going to, and I actually think he's not going to. I mean, 1,100 yards is a lot of rushing yards for a quarterback. The only person to ever do that, I think, is Vic and Lamar, to go over 1,000. And so, and really, Lamar's never gone over. Well, Lamar went over 1,200 the MVP year, and he's never gone over 1,000 since. I think we're going to see kind of similar with Fields. I think he runs for about 700, 800, but I don't think he gets to the 1,100 mark like he did last year, which should open up more opportunity for one of the running backs. We'll find out who. Now, if Herbert goes down, he goes down to an injury, I would be higher on Roschon than Foreman. I don't think Foreman's as good as Roschon. And we haven't even really seen Roschon other than in college. I'm willing to go out on a limb and say I would rather have Roschon as the backup than Foreman. Time will only tell, but that's just my opinion. If you guys want to look at some of these other running backs here, I can, like Swift, obviously. Swift's a question mark. I do have a little bit more of Swift than I think I really want to have as far as exposure. I worry about the way they're going to use him in this offense. He's a very good yards created per touch. He still has juice. Number 2 in yards created per touch last year. He does have injury concerns, obviously. When he's healthy, though, he can be a good back. The problem is that he plays for the Eagles, who don't really use their running backs the way that the Lions did last year, or really over the last few years. And I don't know if they're going to change things up just for Swift. Why would they change things up just for Swift when what they've always been doing, for the last 2 years, in which last year they got to the Super Bowl, it's a good formula. But, there's a lot of question marks with this Swift situation, because they got new offensive coordinator. Remember, Shane Steichen is the head coach now of the Colts. I don't know if the new offensive coordinator is going to come in. Why no interest in Dameon Pierce? I have a ton of interest in Dameon Pierce, bro. You want me to show you? I have I'm actually really high on Dameon Pierce. I owned him last year as a rookie in my main league. I got 25.5% of Pierce, bro. I got him 37 shares. I probably actually have him a little bit more than 37, because he got 37. I got 37 in these 145 drafts. I know in the weekly winners I have. Let me see where he's at. He's got to be like right here. I got 28% of them here, so I got 4 shares of them out of the 14 drafts there. I have a ton of Dameon Pierce, bro. Dameon Pierce is like one of my favorite players to take next to Cam Akers, which you can get both of these guys in round 6 for the most part. Like, I got 50%, so 7 of the 14 teams I got Akers on. No, I love Dameon Pierce, bro. Love him. Especially if you're in like one of these leagues, because in one of these leagues it's just half PPR. You don't have bonus points for running backs who catch the ball, really, other than they get half a point. You don't have any bonus points for, you don't really have like really. I think there's a good chance that Pierce could be better than somebody like Gibbs, and Gibbs goes in round 3-4. So no, I'm super high on Pierce, man. I love Dameon Pierce. He's got good opportunity share right here from last year. I'm not worried about Singletary at all. The yards created per touch is almost 3, so it's close to being where we want it to be, like in the blue area. The blue area is like 2.9 or more. So he's like fair. He's on the borderline. He was ranked 23rd last year. That's RB2 territory. But this will be better once the team gets a little better, which I think they do get a little better now that they have a better quarterback, hopefully. Now that I do think D'Amico Ryans will be a better head coach this year. I think they'll be more competitive this year, the Texans. And so I think this this number increases actually this year, and I think his overall production increases, to be honest. And so he ran for 939 last year. He's gonna probably top 1,000. I'd be shocked if he doesn't. The only way he doesn't top 1,000 is if he gets injured. Misreading him from the Madison slot. Who's the lead back, Penny or Swift? Swift is currently the lead back on the depth chart, but who knows? No, seeing like what you're looking at here, these were past rankings. My rankings are different. I got Pierce ranked like up here. Here, I can show you the actual rankings. I got Pierce ranked as 18. I secretly kind of like him better than Aaron Jones, though. Don't get me wrong. And I really like him better than Josh Jacobs. It's tough to kind of take him over, put him ahead of Jacobs in the rankings. Obviously, he's ahead of him if Jacobs sits out, you know, this and that. But, no, Pierce is a good value. I mean, I think, I don't think there's many people that have him ranked 18th on their rankings. But, yeah, I got him ranked over Mixon, over Pacheco, over Dobbins, over Montgomery, and I really like Montgomery too. And so, yeah, I'm actually pretty high on Pierce. These are the actual rankings. These right here, these advanced stats on the advanced stats tabs, these are just kind of in no particular order. These are just running backs and really just their key stats from last year. It's not really a ranking list right here. I mean, it kind of is in a ranking list, but it's not my actual rankings. My actual rankings are on this on this page right here. And then obviously I have the auction projections that I have them projected to go as. These are the projections that Sleeper has for their auction value. Because I'm in my main league. My main league is an auction league. And so, you know, I love redraft obviously as well. But auction league, man, I'm telling you guys right now, if you've never done an auction league, you are missing out big time. Auction league it's where it's at, bro. It's where it's at. It's so intense. It's so intense. I'm telling you guys, if you have not, like I said, we went over the auction tips in my last video.
To implement during your auction fantasy football draft. Use these strategies to strike fear into your league mates as you dominate on draft night.
Yeah, these are the auction tips I went over. If you guys haven't checked out that auction video, go ahead and check that out. Should be like the first video, the most recent video I've done. Let's get back to our other screen here. So yeah, if you guys haven't done auction, man, get on that, dude. It's so intense. It's so much more fun than redraft. I'm telling you, so much more fun. Earliest you draft Kelsey in a 12-man league PPR. God, man, this is a tough one. You're talking redraft, right? See, I'm so used to auction to where like you can just bid on multiple players that I would be like, yeah, I could get Kelsey, but then again, you're working with a budget. This is a tough question. I'm not gonna lie. I'm not as high on Kelsey. I don't like him in the first round to a degree. With the Tony injury though, that kind of changes a few things. I don't like drafting him early first round unless it's like a weekly winner contest. I do like him a little early in the weekly winner contest. If we're talking just a regular league that's not best ball, I like him middle, like pick 6 to like pick 9-ish, pick 10-ish. I can get on board. You're gonna have to make up ground though if you draft him, you know, round 1. You're gonna suffer in the department. And if I had to give you guys the best strategy whenever you go Kelsey early, it's to go late running back. Go get a quarterback, go get 2 receivers, and go late running back. I think that's the best way you can build a team around Kelsey. Don't go late receiver, don't go late quarterback. Okay? But if the earliest I would take him probably before AJ Brown, most definitely. I would take him. It's debatable, but I would take him probably before Diggs. If Bijan's there, I'm not sure if I'm taking him before Bijan. I can do it. I can take him before Bijan, but like I said, you're gonna have to go late running back. So let me pull up a Let's pull up the last draft that we did here. I want to see what this guy did with Kelsey. So we just did a best ball Mania 4. This is what we drafted. Obviously, we had a 10 pick, which kind of sucks in my opinion. All right, so this guy went Kelsey, Chubb, DK. Okay, he got Burrow, Jason, Addison, Pickens, Jameson. Let me just ask you guys, do you guys like his receiver room? Because I don't. Like, DK's okay. I like DK. He went and got his counterpart, JSN, who we'll see. He could have a decent year. I guess it's a good handcuff to if something happens to DK, you know. But then he's got Addison, who I like, but he's a rookie. I would like Addison as my number 3 guy without JSN being my number 2 guy, if that makes any sense. I'm not as high on Pickens. You know, I secretly like Elijah more than Pickens. Obviously, I like Dotson more than Pickens. What I'm saying is, and look, he's got Chubb, he's got Pacheco, McKinnon, so he handcuffed McKinnon to Chubb or Pacheco, Kendre Miller, Algier. You know, Justin Ross is a decent pick down here. Hell no, I don't like. Yeah, too many rookies. That's kind of my train of thought too. So this is what I would do, bro. If I drafted Kelsey, okay, I would go Kelsey right here. I'm taking Chris Olave or I'm taking Calvin Ridley. Really, what I would like to do is get Chris Olave and then Calvin Ridley right here. That's obviously a stretch. So really, you'd almost be better off drafting Kelsey like at pick 3 or 4 right now, the way that the drafts are going, because you have a better chance of getting like Olave and then Ridley as your second pick. Because look, if you could go, or let's just say he gets DK. So let's say he goes Olave DK, which isn't bad, you know. Realistically, he could have got Devontae Smith if I wasn't in the draft. I'm a little high on Devontae Smith. Realistically, he probably still could have got Devontae Smith if I wasn't in the draft. So let's say he gets Devontae or Olave right here. And then let's say he gets whoever. Let's just say he gets DK, right? He still gets Burrow, which I don't mind. He could go like Pierce right here. Reach on Pierce or Akers or whoever you like, or even Walker. Maybe Walker falls to him right here. You get one of those running backs. You draft another receiver maybe right here, or another running back. Really, you would draft another receiver. You would go Addison as your 3rd receiver. You would go Dotson. You would go, you know, probably one of those 2 guys would be my recommendation. You could maybe make an argument for Quentin Johnston or Elijah Moore. Elijah Moore would be kind of early right there. But I would like I would rather have Addison and Dotson as my number 3 receiver right there. And then I would have Olave or Devontae Smith and DK. And then you still get Kelsey, you still get Burrow, you get Damian Pierce or Cam Akers or Kenneth Walker early in the 5th round, or like in the middle of the 5th round. And then you go, because he took Pacheco, so you could go Pacheco. Pacheco is your number 2. You could go Kamara, Connor. You know, you basically try to get like a Pacheco, and then you try to get like a, say you get Zach Charbonnet to go with Kenneth Walker, or even P. Ryan. I like P. Ryan. You get Brian Robinson. You know what I mean? And then maybe you snag a Khalil Herbert. So you get, let's say you get like Khalil Herbert, Pacheco. Let's just say you get Damian Pierce or Cam Akers right in the 5th round, and then you get like, you settle for maybe McKinnon as your 4th running back. I would rather go that route. I think you're better off waiting on running backs. Thanks for streaming so late. Yeah, no problem, dude. I enjoy it, and like I said, dude, I haven't been live since like Tuesday or Wednesday, and so I needed to kind of catch up. And you know, I'm usually up throughout the night anyways, whenever I work. So, but yeah, man, that's what I would do, dude. If I drafted Kelsey, I'm going late running back, because if you wait on receiver like this guy did, I feel like you're falling behind here. Williams, we don't know. He's suspended for 6 games. Pickens, I just would rather have Dotson or Addison over Pickens, and it's not close to me. Like, I don't even have to think about it. Addison's a number 2 guy filling in for the role of Thielen, who had a ton of targets last year, who's on a high passing offense in the Vikings. I think Dotson is a better player than Pickens, and they're both year 2 guys. Dotson obviously had an injury last year, but he had 7 touchdowns in 12 games. He's looking very, very good in training camp from what I hear and what I've read. And so, you know what I mean? And JSN, I always thought JSN was a little too high. Like, I feel like JSN's like middle of 5th round is too high for him. I'm taking, like, obviously I would take Kirk over JSN. Obviously this guy didn't have the chance because Kirk went 1 pick before him. But but you could also argue maybe he goes DeAndre Hopkins or London or McLaurin or DJ Moore. Maybe he goes DJ Moore right here and then he settles for Herbert. That's not a bad idea either. I think Herbert and Joe Burrow, like, if you're talking about MVP, and I've already put a bet on Joe Burrow to win MVP. I obviously like Joe Burrow a ton, but I'm high on Herbert as well. If we go to my rankings, I have Herbert ranked number 4. I have him over Josh Allen this year. A lot of people would say I'm wrong and disagree with that flat on its face. But if I had to give you like MVP chances, obviously Mahomes the best, probably to win it again. Joe Burrow's a close second. He's probably dipped a little bit since the injury came out, but I believe if I looked on DraftKings, Herbert's probably the 3rd best odds. Herbert's got really good odds to win MVP, and really, but the thing is like Burrow's a 4th rounder. You can sometimes get him in the beginning of the 5th if you get lucky. Herbert's a steady number, round 5 guy. So I think there's a huge discount on somebody like Herbert. Let's look at the MVP odds here. Futures. Where the heck is MVP at? Oh, award. It's in awards. Yeah, Mahomes is plus 700. Joe Burrow's plus 750. Josh Allen's plus 800. Hurts is plus 1100, and then the 5th best odds is Herbert plus 1300. So that was close. Really, I might take that. Plus 1300 is pretty good. Pretty good odds for somebody who's going to be on the highest passing offense in the league this year. Who, if he has probably a healthy receiving room this year, probably he's going to have his name in the hat for sure. So that's what I would do, though, man. If I drafted Kelsey, I'm going late running back. Because I feel like you can kind of make up for some of these running backs. Plus, running backs get hurt. And so, even if he takes Chubb or Henry or whoever right here, they still have a pretty decent chance of getting hurt versus maybe one of these receivers, I would say. I mean, it's just how it is. And so, and I think there's good value. Like, I think Pierce is a good value. I think Connor's a decent value if he went back in the 8th round where he was going. Akers is a decent value in round 6, in my opinion. That's why I took him in this draft. Pacheco, even in the middle of round 8, he's a decent pick too, especially if you handcuff him to McKinnon. I don't even mind these 2 picks. It's just that, like, he could have taken a receiver here and gotten, he could have gotten potentially Kenneth Walker here. He obviously didn't get him this draft, but he could have still got Dameon Pierce or Cam Akers. And so that's why I would wait on running back if I went Kelsey. I feel like it's the only way to kind of build a team and kind of feel good about it. Because if I had this team, I would not feel good about the receivers. I'd be like, man, I know I got Kelsey, but these receivers, man, I don't know, man. Addison and like I think Addison will do fairly well, but JSN's going to have to produce as well, and that's going to be maybe tough if Lockett has a similar year to last year. DK plays the way he's been playing. What's the deal with Miami's backfield? It's irrelevant. I don't know. They're gonna. I don't know. Hopefully Cook goes to Miami, so we don't have to worry about our Brees shares or our Ramondre Stevenson shares. That's what's up. That's what I would say is what's up with their backfield. I don't know, man. I don't know what's up with their backfield other than I don't want really any part of it, to be honest. You want to talk about committee? That's committee. That's literally like you look up the definition of running back committee in a dictionary, and it's like Miami Dolphins. That's what's like the first team to come up. I mean, they are a committee, and it's only going to get worse if like Cook goes there. And I like Cook to a degree, but he goes to Miami, man. I don't know. Last year, Mostert was a huge late ad for you. Yeah, let's look at their like advanced stats here. To be honest, I haven't really looked at it. I mean, I have it on here, but I haven't really like dove into it. Jeff Wilson. This is Jeff Wilson right here. 1.88 yards created per touch, so he's kind of on a little bit of a decline. He did have a decent true yards per carry. He was really kind of the most efficient back, I think, last year, technically. Where's Mostert at? Here he is. Mostert's right here. Yeah, he had 4.6 true yards per carry. He actually did have a little bit more yards created per touch. I mean, these are my like too old is my player notes for Mostert, and this guy is old. I mean, who knows? He might provide a little bit something here or there, but he's not a guy where I'm like, yeah, he's my number 2 running back, and I'm starting him week to week. Like Mostert's just, he doesn't qualify as one of those guys. Someone wanted my ETN for their McLaurin and Jay Connor. Nah, right? Yeah, no. Help me win both my wins. Oh, that's good then. I mean, if you can get the right production out of them out of a certain week, then sure. But you're doing a lot of guessing, in my opinion. And really, well, it just depends. You know, if we see like Jeff Wilson get hurt, blah blah blah, you're like, okay, maybe there might be a little bit of value with Mostert here, considering the Dolphins are playing the Raiders or somebody, right, who suck and have a horrible defense. You're like, hey, well, Jeff Wilson's out. Maybe I play Mostert this week. They play the lowly Raiders. Maybe we get something out of him. Maybe, you know, if you're talking about a scenario like that, then maybe I can get on board. But as far as like being a week-to-week starter, he's not. He's not a guy you're like, oh my God, I have to put him in my flex every single week, or I have to put him as my running back 2 every week. If you're that guy, then you're in trouble. Probably would be my guess. A-Chain's a rookie this year, obviously, but A-Chain's going to be more of a receiving back. He's going to play a Swift type of role, a Jahmyr Gibbs type of role, probably even more so. I don't think he's going to get a whole lot of touches between the tackles at all. They might run an outside zone for him, or a reverse to him or something. Maybe he goes in motion as like a slot receiver and comes back on a reverse. You know, of course, they're going to use Waddle and Tyreek like that as well. And then they're obviously going to use him as a pass catching back, like a Darren Sproles. But A-Chain's not going to get any really between the tackles work. I'm telling you right now, like Wilson and Mostert go down, they're going to pick up like a Kareem Hunt or a running back that's on the market. If something like that happens, they're not going to be like, okay, A-Chain, you're up. No, the guy's like 180 pounds, bro. He's not running between the tackles much, if at all. I'm not saying he'll do it again, but he might be my last pick on the bench. Yeah. I'm just saying, like, you're not drafting this guy as like a starter. You're not even contemplating that. He's just a guy maybe you pick up as a 4th running back, a 5th running back, and we'll just see what happens, you know. Maybe Wilson goes down, maybe A-Chain isn't what everybody thought he maybe could have done or whatever. Of course, they would play 2 different roles anyways. Mosert's going to get the downhill between the tackles work anyways, because he's a bigger back. Any excitement about Deuce Vaughn for PPR? I was kind of on the Deuce Vaughn train a little bit back in like April or really early May after the draft. I was taking him like as my last pick in best ball drafts just to take a stab at him, you know. I would say no, though. It's Tony Pollard's backfield. Unless something happens to Pollard, and really at that point, I don't think he's gonna be used as much as we would think, say if Pollard went down anyways. I haven't drafted him at all, dude, since like May. I was on the train for a little while but that's best ball. If we're talking a regular draft, not really. Like if we're talking a regular draft where you have to set your lineup every week, you know, he's a waiver wire guy that we might look at, say if something happens to Pollard in the early weeks, but that's about it, I think. He's undersized, he is fast, he is a decent back for his size, but it's crowded. I mean, I don't think anything. I think Pollard's a good bet this year for the most part. I think that he's got to be the third stringer, right? I don't even think he's ahead of Malik. I don't even think he's ahead of Malik on the depth chart. Let me look. I don't think he is though. Yeah, Malik Davis is dude. They got Ronald Jones as a third stringer on here too. They got Deuce Vaughn as a fourth stringer. So no, dude, I'm excited maybe if he gets an opportunity, but I got to see him get that opportunity first. I got to know that maybe like, oh my God, Ronald Jones went down to injury. Tony Pollard went down to injury. There's a chance that Deuce Vaughn plays this week. I'll be like, okay, maybe I'll take a shot, but probably not, because I don't think those things are going to come to fruition. So yeah, Deuce Vaughn, I don't know. I would say no. I'm out on him, and it looks like he's moved back. He was the third stringer, I'm pretty sure, a while ago, and now they got him listed as the fourth stringer on here. So I think Pollard's going to be your best bet, and I think he's going to be okay. For the most part, he'll be okay. So we'll see. And here's the deal. I think if Deuce Vaughn got in, or let's say it was like him and Malik Davis or him and Ronald Jones, because two guys went down, one, I think they would go pick up somebody out of free agency, and two, I think they would put the ball in Dak's hands a little more anyways, and they would just kind of like, here, Dak, go win us the football game. We are, you know, we don't have Tony Pollard anymore. We don't have Malik Davis anymore. You know, we're going to give you Deuce Vaughn and Ronald Jones, but we want you to throw it to CeeDee Lamb and Brandon Cooks and try to go win it with your arm instead, you know. I don't think they would just turn and really kind of use him as much as what people would probably hope for. And so that's why, yeah, I would say no. I would say no. I mean, there's excitement about him, but at the same time, if I'm being realistic, I don't think we're going to see too much production, if any at all, from him this year, to be honest. A lot of things would have to unfold. A lot of things would have to go his way in order for that to happen. So, but I do have him in some, I do have him some in this right here. I don't know how much of them I have. But I basically took him with basically all my last picks. I mean, I got 9 shares of him. Every single time I drafted him was in the last round, though. Every single time. There might have been one draft where I took him in round 17 or something, but that's about it. What else you got, Jack? Anything else? Anything else before maybe I call it a night? I mean, I'll stay up a little longer, but we can go maybe another 30 more minutes, but if you don't have anything else, I might just cut it short. Trying to look at here some other running backs. Maybe we'd be, like I said, you know, you look at Pollard, yards created per touch, 3.3, 8th overall in the league last year. Yeah, Deuce Vaughn ain't getting nothing from that guy. Nothing as long as that guy's healthy. Stevenson, this is why I'm so high on him. 6 yards created per touch. Evaded tackles, 5th. Or no, this was yards created rank. This is how many total yards created he had rank. So 7th actually for him. Evaded tackles, 113. I believe his evaded tackles rank was 3rd best in the league. Evaded tackles is a very good stat as well for running backs. Guys who can break tackles, avoid tackles. Last thing, Saints backfield. Were you here when I talked about the Saints earlier? Kendra and Jamal. Yeah. We're still waiting on the suspension news, dude. We're waiting on the suspension news from Kamara, and I'm still drafting Kamara. I didn't draft him in this past draft, but I have a little bit of Kamara. Let me see how much of Kamara I actually have here. This is out of the 145 teams. 15 shares, 10.3% of them. I probably have them a little bit more if you consider the like let's see what I got in Superflex here. I actually don't have them in any of the Superflexes. I do have them in, well, let's see what this 25 Superflex. I gotta have them in one of these. Okay, I got one share of them out of these 25 teams. Weekly winners, I gotta have a couple shares of them, I would think. I got 2 shares of them, so 2, 1, and whatever the other one was. So I do think Kamara is still a pretty good value in round 8. I wouldn't be as high on Jamal, probably. I like Kendre Miller. I think he's a sleeper in terms of, not this year, but maybe like if you had him in Dynasty a couple years down the road. I like Kendre Miller. I like him as a sleeper in that regard. I would handcuff Kamara and Jamal Williams if I get the chance most of the time. I don't know how often you're going to have that chance, really, but Kamara does go in round 8, and I think Kamara, I think he's a little bit of a steal, to be honest. I may have a little bit different take on his. I mean, we look at Kamara, he's decently proficient, 3.08, 15th in yards created per touch. Yards created ranked, this is total yards created, he was inside of the top 10. The 4.0 true yards per carry is a little concerning here. It's not super concerning. 80.1 snap share percentage. This is the highest of any running back last year. Barkley was like right behind him, but he had the highest snap share percentage of any running back last year. Opportunity share is obviously really good as well. Targets, he's in the blue. That's good for, for a running back who can catch the ball, obviously. Here are my notes on him. Good value if not suspended. Now, I should change this to good value if not suspended more than 4 games. So really, he's good value if not suspended more than 4 games. And you know what? I don't think he's going to get more than 4. I don't even know if he will get any games. I'm starting to believe he's not going to get anything. And really, I'm starting to believe that even if he does, it's going to be like 1 or 2 games. It's just so weird, man. I said it from day one. I said it from back. I was telling myself back, and I was talking to Smitty about it before I even started doing my own stuff. And he talked about it on his channel about when the video came out last year. It was just crazy that nobody covered it in the mainstream media. Nobody gave a damn, and the NFL didn't do anything. The Saints aren't gonna do anything because they need him on the field. That's why they didn't. Dude, the Saints will not suspend this guy. They would have already done it already. It's gonna have to come from the league, and he just got the charges reduced down to like, basically disturbance of the peace or whatever the heck it was called. Basically disturbance of the peace. Like, you stomp a guy out and you get this. If you get disturbance of the peace by stomping a guy out, bro, I mean, I wouldn't be shocked if this guy gets nothing. And so I think he's a horrible human being. I think he's wrong for what he did. He was bragging about it, blah, blah, blah. But at the end of the day, am I going to draft him? You bet your ass I am, bro. If I'm going to get him in round 8, bro, this guy, even let's just say he gets suspended 2 games. let's just say we can predict the future and he gets suspended 2 games. That's still a value in round 8. This guy should go in round 5. He should go right where Kenneth Walker's going. He should go right where Mixon's going. He should go right where he should definitely probably be going a little bit ahead of probably Akers and Pierce, who both go in like round 6. So the fact that we can still get him in round 8, it's worth the risk in my opinion, and especially in a best ball draft. Maybe I'm a little more cautious with him, like say in my auction league this year, where I actually have to set my lineup every week and blah blah blah. Of course, auction's a little different because you might be able to get him for a cheap dollar amount compared to what you would in past years. Plus, he's 28, so I do think he has another year left in him, though. I do think that although he's getting a little older and although he has the suspension looming, I think he's still a decent value. I mean, 15th in yards created per touch. He still has a little bit of juice left in the tank. This isn't like Zeke. And he is going to be 28 this year. What's this number? Route participation rate. This is actually pretty good. This is, 62.6. That means he's running a route 62.5% of the time that they pass the ball whenever he's on the field, which is good for a running back. The only ones that have a higher route participation rate is McCaffrey. Even Eckler, who caught a ton of over 100 balls last year, his route participation rate is still lower than what Kamara's was. And you factor with he ran for about 900 yards last year, caught for whatever it was he caught for. I think I got it hidden right now, but yeah, dude. Jamal's probably the better handcuff than Kendra Miller. Kendra Miller's still trying to recover from that knee, that MCL knee or whatever, from the playoff game or whatever, college football playoff game, which took place like New Year's Eve. So I think Kendra Miller's a guy to look out for down the road. This year I don't think is his year. Kind of like Zay Flowers. Of course, Zay Flowers is a different situation, but I think it's kind of like Kendra Miller. Look out for him down the road. This year, though, probably not his year. Because you still got Kamara. You got Jamal Williams. And then you also have the injury that he's still trying to come back from. So, and he's a rookie. So, like I said, I would get Kamara. I wouldn't get him in every draft you do, especially in best ball, but I would have a handful of them. You know what I mean? Miller's it. Now, Miller's a beast, bro. He's a beast. He's coming back. He's trying to come back from this injury from the college football playoff semifinal game. So you got to take that into consideration. You got to take into consideration that Kamara's still in town. I don't know how long Kamara's going to be with the Saints. You got to think, dude, he's 28. He's going to be 28 this year. He's probably only got a few years left. Miller will eventually fill in. And Jamal Williams is like 30 as well. So Kendra Miller is the future. Don't get it twisted. It's just this year I don't think is his year. Okay? It's just not his year. And so I talked about my sleepers in past videos back in like April. He was one of my sleepers, but I said in that video, he's a sleeper for like a dynasty or for like a guy that maybe you can keep in like a keeper league for next year, 2024, maybe even 2025. We'll see. But so this year, like, yeah, I'm not as high on him. I do like Kendra Miller as a player though, and I think you will be hearing more from him eventually. Just this year's not his year. And if I had to handcuff any two running backs, I would take Kamara and Jamal if I'm taking from that backfield. And I wouldn't say you have to handcuff Kamara though. I don't think you have to. I think you can take him without taking Jamal and you'll be okay as long as you have. Look, I've had Kamara as like my fourth running back, where I've had like a loaded running back room, and then I got Kamara as my fourth running back. And if he only gets a 2-gamer or a 1-gamer or even a 4-gamer, even if it is a 4-gamer, it doesn't matter, because if I drafted 3 really good running backs before him, I'm chilling until week 5 basically. As long as I don't get a major injury or really 2 major injuries, because you got to think you're only starting 2 running backs really anyways. Maybe 3 if you put one in the flex, but you got to think, bro. I have multiple teams where I have I have literally like Bijan, Najee, Damian Pierce as my 3 running backs, and then I have like Kamara as my 4th running back. I have like at least a couple of teams that are very similar to that. And it's like, if you have him as your 4th running back in the 8th round, you're chilling, dude. You're chilling. Doesn't matter if he gets a 4-gamer, and I don't even think he will, dude. I think he's going to get like 1 or 2 games, and that's it. And really, I wouldn't be shocked if he gets nothing. I did say handcuff with Kendre Miller, but I'm kind of going back on that. Or no, that's Kenneth Walker. Never mind. I thought I said, yeah, I would handcuff him with Jamal Williams, though. I think there's maybe been a time or two where I've handcuffed him to Miller, but really, I would say Jamal Williams is probably the better guy to handcuff because Jamal's going to get probably more playing time, and Jamal is actually pretty reliable as far. And really, coaches love Jamal Williams, so he's going to play because he's got good work ethic. He's got a good energy around him. He's going to be a guy who plays more than somebody like Miller this year, unless he gets hurt. So that's what I would say, bro, about the Saints backfield. I wouldn't say I'm buying a ton of it, but like I said, you get Kamara as your 4th guy. You get him in round 8. I even seen him go in round 10. Like back in May, there was a draft I did where he went in round 10. I couldn't believe it. He actually used to consistently go in round 9 for the most part. Now he's moved up to round 8, but it's still good value. The guy should be going like round 5 or 6. And really, I expect the suspension news hopefully this week. I expect the suspension news this week, and I expect Dalvin Cook to probably be on the Jets, the Dolphins, probably one of those 2 teams by the end of this week coming up as well. Hopefully we get those 2 pieces of news, I would say, this coming week, starting Monday. Those are the 2 things I would be on the lookout for if I were you guys. And I would. And I'm going to cover it. Other guys are going to cover it as well on their YouTube channels. But those are the 2 pieces of news I would tell you to look out for this week. Kamara and Dalvin Cook, baby. So I'm out of here, bro. Hey, if you want to look at this stuff right here, let me here, I'll hide my camera. Okay, I hid my camera. These are just the running backs. I'll kind of scroll up. I'll let it display here. And this isn't everything. I obviously have a couple of things hidden, but these are probably the most important things as far as the running backs go. So screenshot this or pause the video after I get done streaming. That way you can see, you can line up which numbers with which guys. You can see what they are. And then we'll do this. We'll go here to here. We'll hide this row right here. We'll hide those rows. That way you can see. That way you can see the guys 31 to like 60. Screenshot that or pause the video. And there, you pretty much have my advanced stats for the running backs. You don't really need to see anybody past Leonard Fournette. It'll be okay. Those guys are kind of irrelevant anyways. I do have receivers as well that you can look at, receivers and stuff and tight ends. We might go over those another day for you guys who have not seen it. So, but for right now, like I said, you screenshot that for the running backs, or you can pause the video and you guys can look at it on your own time, So they are good stats to look out for. It's not the end all to be all in terms of your determination for a running back, but they are things to consider when you evaluate certain running backs that you want to draft. You also want to obviously evaluate their, what kind of value they have depending on where they go in drafts, and then also you want to evaluate training camp news and everything else. It's not the end all to be all. It's just a portion of stats you maybe want to look out for on top of your eye test, on top of the value and redraft and everything else. You put all that stuff combined together, and that's how you come up with your analysis of a player. So for fantasy football, that's what I do. At least I don't draft based off of all this stuff. I do look at the eye test. I do look at past performances as well as far as other years. I do look at trends and stuff like that, and then we also look at the recent news regarding the training camp reports, regarding the beat writers and everything else as well. So with that being said, man, I am out of here. We talked about, obviously, Jonathan Taylor. We talked about some other news as well. We did a Best Ball Mania 4 $25 draft from the 10 spot. Probably not my greatest team, but we did okay from the 10 spot. It's tough, man, from the 10 spot, I will say. And so, yeah, man, we're going to probably go live tomorrow, too, as well. We'll find some time, whether it's late night or maybe I would maybe look out for like a 4 or 5 p.m. Central time, because I live in Central time zone. So 5 or 6 p.m. Eastern time frame, I'll probably go live and we'll go over some news if we have some more breaking news. Like I said, man, look out for Dalvin Cook news this week. Look out for a Kamara suspension news this week as well. It's got to be coming. I think I have a gut feeling that they're both coming this week. Okay, I don't have any sources for that or anything. It's just a gut feeling. I think we see news regarding both of those guys actually come down this week. So with that being said, man, I'm out of here. I enjoyed your guys' company. Hit the subscribe button if you guys haven't already. If you guys are new to the channel, we are on the road to 1,000 subscribers. I really appreciate you guys' support. Also, like the video, drop a like if you guys like the content. Helps me get past YouTube's algorithm. More people can watch the show. You know, we attract a bigger audience that way as well. If you guys have any questions, leave it down in the comments section. I will answer you eventually. I promise you. And with that being said, man, I'm out of here. Peace out. You guys have a good one. We will catch you guys probably tomorrow. If not, definitely Monday. But probably tomorrow. I am out of here.